discomfort or restriction that can accompany the post traumatic condition. After an injury, surgery and physical therapy can be the first steps to recovery. And much of the time, this is enough. But what if you fall into the situation that many of us fall into? The space where all the medical options end and the pain indicates that more healing needs to be done. And you are desperate for answers. In this, if this sounds like you, right, then stay tuned and we will dive into this session of the Master Your Recovery Virtual Summit series. In this series, we're going to cover how post traumatic pain accounts for 14% of all disabilities worldwide and includes localized pain such as low back pain, knee pain, shoulder pain, and even general joint pain. And what you will discover is how you can find relief by partnering with the right kind of complementary therapy services to help you overcome these types of challenges. Hi, I am your host, Elle Kersey, and I am elated to introduce you to today's first speaker, Angela Pride. She is a former on-air personality. She's a former on-air personality, a speaker, an author, CEO of Coach with Pride, an all-around amazing woman, an NFL current mom, a current NFL mom, I guess I should say. And I can certainly go on about her all day long. So let's welcome her to the stage. Welcome, Angela.
Hello. Well, hello, everybody. So excited to be here today. Thanks so much, Elle, for that wonderful introduction. But I'm excited. I'm just excited to be in the room today and to talk to you guys a little bit. My topic today is going to be about being injured versus being hurt. But, I hate when people get up in front of me and talk about stuff and you're like, well, how do you know about this? Or what's your expertise in this area? And as Elle mentioned, I am a current NFL mom, but I really consider myself a sports mom. I've been a sports mom for over 20 years now. I mean, my kids have done everything from soccer to track and field to wrestling to football to basketball. I mean, you name it, they've done it and pretty much excelled in all those things. So I'm really coming to you today from that sports mom aspect, but I wear a lot of hats and you'll hear a little bit about the many hats that I wear in my talk. And so I got my little cheat sheets here today to get started. But like I said, I wanted to give you a little background about me as well. So I am an athlete. I'm a current athlete. I'm an avid runner. Actually picking back up my running. I was a former ambassador for Black Girls Run for 3 years. And that was just an awesome thing in itself, getting African-American women out on the pavement, your race, your pace, that sort of thing. And so I did that for a while, but then I stopped doing it, but I continued to run. Definitely been kind of trying to increase my pace again as far as my running. Oh gosh, I don't like the way this thing looks on my hair, but anyway, trying to increase my running again. So I am an athlete myself, but I play basketball as well in high school. For 3 years, enjoyed basketball, always have loved the game of basketball. And so having played, I know the rules to the game and those sorts of things, as well as being a sports mom. Like I said, my daughter started playing soccer, I want to say when she was 5 or 6, and then everybody else just kind of followed suit with their respective sports. But I've been around injuries, but we've been blessed in my family because there's not been a lot of injuries. And when I was thinking about what I wanted to talk to you guys about today, I basically wanted to talk a little bit about that, about being blessed, about not having a lot of injuries. Now, what I learned, I mean, I don't think I've ever done a sport or ever began to run without warming up first. I don't think I've ever seen my kids do things without warming up, without stretching. And I know that this summit is going to cover a lot of those bases, and I don't pretend to be an expert in those things, but I do think that some of those things have definitely been helpful in us not being injured, right? And so I I wanted to make that footnote because, like I said, not having experienced a lot of injuries up close, but still having seen a lot of injuries with other athletes, with my kids' teammates, with runners around me, and so on and so forth. I think I'm qualified a little bit to speak on what I'm going to speak on today, and that is the difference between being injured and being hurt. And so I'm going to get a little bit more into that a little bit later. But like I said, continuing on with my background. So I come from parents that weren't athletic at all. And then I married a man who was like the most athletic, competitive person in life. So hence, me getting back out there on the pavement around like, say, 2009, 2010, I started running and loved every minute of it. But during my journey, I did get injured. And it wasn't about me being injured on the pavement. I got injured in the gym. So now imagine that, I'm working out, I'm doing my gym thing, and I get hurt. And they have to wrap my leg up. I have to go through therapy and all of this and that. And I actually went through therapy with my trainer as opposed to just going to a regular PT. So don't really know, but I do know that when I played basketball in high school, my injuries were a lot less. They didn't take as much time. So I don't know if it's that age thing or what it is as far as that's concerned. But when I hurt my ankle, and my ankles have always been gimpy, and if you talk to my sons or my daughters, they're going to tell you they get their gimpy ankles from their mom. And so, but like I said, I can only count really one, maybe two, maybe a couple of times during basketball I was hurt, but nothing that hindered me from playing the game, right? And so that's part of what the talk is about today, because people always say, well, you can play hurt, but you can't play injured. And, I think that's subjective, but I'm also going to come back to that a little bit later as well. So fast forward now, I'm a sports mom. I'm involved, my boys, but, even with my kids, I can count on one hand how many times my kids have had to sit out a game because they were injured, right? And I think it might have been one for each of them, and it killed them, like being on the sideline. And, I would say, like, seriously, one of my sons is 24. I think he's only missed before getting to professional sports in his amateur career. He only missed one game that I know of. And the same with my younger son, who's 21. So, like I said, we've been blessed to not have a ton of injuries or things that have hindered them. But keeping in mind, too, remember that man that I said I married that's one of the most competitive men on earth? He kind of trained our athletes to pop up. And I can remember him saying that and not really thinking much about it, but he's always told them, don't lay down, pop up, pop up. And now I know a little bit better, but I know that there's somebody listening where they either are telling their kids the same thing, or they have a husband or a wife or somebody who's telling their kids the same thing. And again, I hope that you will come for the remainder of this summit series, because like I said, you're going to hear some people talk about some things that's going to help you a lot with those things. But what I do know now is that it is not a good thing to play hurt, injured, or anything, because our bodies are like, we're not going to get another one, right? And so with that being said, I do not like the fact that, and I kind of get on to my husband now, because even with young men that we also do something called sports consulting, which is helping high school athletes and their parents prepare for the recruitment process. And so, but I don't tell young men and young women now that, if you're hurt, if you're injured, and I know it's so competitive out here, nobody wants to lose their spot. Nobody wants to run the risk of not playing, but you only get one body. And if you don't get anything from this talk today, understand that you only have one body and you don't get another one. So when that body continues to get beat up and beat up and beat up, I don't think you're designed to play. Take Tom Brady, for instance, 20 years. That's unheard of. But you also got to look at the position. So anyway, I could get on a soapbox about positioning and different ways for you to continue the longevity in your sport. But again, everybody's different. Everybody's body's different. And that's another thing that I've learned when you're talking about injuries and being hurt. But like I said, my husband did teach my sons to not lay down and to pop up at any instance. He didn't want to see him on the ground. So there were a couple of instances recently where I noticed one of my sons lay down. And so the fact of that, it was like, oh God, he must really be hurt if he is not getting up, because that mindset has been instilled in them since they were 5 and 6 years old. And so with that being said, though, I want parents and I want even athletes that are listening to this summit to understand that you are not a robot. You do not have to keep going. What God has for you is for you. I'm an avid believer of that. No one can, they might can, let me see. They might can take your place. Oh gosh, I'm about to mess that up. Anyway, I'm going to try to get into it, but they can't fill your spot, right? So they may be a placeholder for you, but you have to get healthy. You have to do what you can do to get back into your situation of being a healthy athlete, right? Because you're so much better when you're healthy. But anyway, so but I just believe that sometimes we can even teach our young people wrong. Sometimes we can believe the wrong things ourselves. And like I said, I'm going to get into the hurt versus the injured thing here real quick. But I just believe that when I was growing up, I believe a lot of what my kids were taught, when you talk about warming up, you talk about getting those muscles ready before you just jump into a sport. I think a lot of those things were definitely the right thing to do, right? To kind of prevent injuries, to kind of prevent becoming hurt as an athlete, right? So I think that we have to continue to encourage people to do the right thing when it comes to their respective sports or whatever it is that they're doing, even exercising in the gym, which is where, like I said, I got injured. I was out. I was down. I couldn't do a lot of things for probably about a good 4 to 6 months, really. Like putting weight on my ankle for a long time was unheard of. And now we live in a world to where if you do hurt your ankle, the trainers are like, hey, or the coaches are like, hey, let's wrap it up and get back out there. And I kind of cringe when I think about that. Now, again, I was a little older when I got my first serious injury. And so that probably affected the longevity of me being out for about the 6 months, right? Whereas my kids, my son, one of my sons sat out a football game, and again, just killed him. He did not want to sit out, but he did. And I was like, well, you're going to be better for the next go round, just trying to encourage him. But they're ready to go. I mean, they have shots and things now that they take, even as amateur athletes, even in college. They're ready to inject something into your daughter's leg to get her back out there on the volleyball court because she's their star a killer or whatever. So it matters how we take care of our bodies. It matters about doing the right thing to prevent those sorts of things from happening. But again, we are not robots, so they are going to happen. And when they do, you need to make sure, like I said, that you're tuned in for the remainder of this series, because I do not pretend to be an expert. I'm not a doctor when it comes to things like injuries and what to specifically do for them. But I'm trying to tell you guys what not to do, in a sense. Like I said, don't tell your kids to pop up if they're hurt, like let them lay there and somebody else can come in. That's why they have reserves. That's why they have backups and those sorts of things. But so anyway, so enough of that. But now, so let's get into the injury versus being hurt, right? And so with that being said, I looked up those terms because I didn't want to get on here and, like I said, pretend to be the expert, or I wanted to see what the dictionary had to say about those two words, whether you're injured or whether you're hurt. And I really didn't like the definitions, but I'm going to give them to you anyway. So when I looked up hurt, it said one definition said harm. So the next definition says to cause physical pain. Now, I really did like that one. So if you're hurt, you have some physical pain going on, right? And then the other one used injured in the definition for hurt. It says physically injured. And again, that one was okay. But then I went to injured, right? So if to be injured is to damage your body. And I did like that definition. It refers to harm caused by falls, hits, weapons, or even other things. But I've seen people be injured and they haven't even been touched. So I don't think that it necessarily has to do with you being hit. I don't think it has anything to do with you necessarily falling or things like that. You can become injured just walking. And I know that sounds a little funny, but I know some people who've done that. So it's really about, your body. It's about your muscles. You can become injured because you're overweight. There are so many variables that have to do with injuries, but let's stick to those definitions, right? So injured is damage to your body. And then for hurt, we're going to use causing physical pain. And so when people say, should you be playing? Can you play injured? Can you play hurt? And that is where I get into the fact that it's kind of subjective. Have you guys ever heard of a guy called Kobe Bryant? Now, I'll tell you a little backstory. My family's a house divided because you got a couple of Celtic fans, you got a couple of Laker fans. So I'm more of a fan of Kobe, not may he rest in peace, but because he retired. Okay, I can get on the bandwagon after you're no longer a competition for me and my boys. But anyway, so Kobe, he did this they did this documentary on Kobe after he died. And he was doing it obviously when he was alive, but where Kobe had tore his Achilles, or Lord, don't quote me on that, but it was the bottom of right at his foot, at the end of his calf. And I really do believe it was his Achilles. And he continued to play the game. So he was clearly injured, but he went back out on the court. Still sticking with Kobe. Kobe was the same person. They said that his pinky finger was that of like an 80-plus-year-old man. But he continued to play, although I think he had either broke his finger or did something, continued to shoot. He did something one time with his shoulder, clearly injured, went back out and played with the other hand the entire game. So obviously some of that is a little mental, right? Some of it is your mindset. And they called Kobe Bryant the Black Mamba, which means that when it's time to kill, he's going to kill, he's going to bury you. It's over. He's the closer. And so, a lot of people respect that and we highlight that and we cheer for that. And it's like, yeah, Kobe, right? But I just can imagine, again, he's no longer with us, and may he rest in peace, and nothing against his mindset and his drive and his tenacity and his determination, because those things are always applauded when you talk about the great athletes, right? My favorite was Larry Bird. My favorite was Magic Johnson. My favorite was Bill Russell. Those guys did as well. Now, I don't know the stories about them, but you know why? Because there was no social media, so you wasn't all up in the Kool-Aid. If those old school guys got injured, they hid it. They didn't want anybody talking about it. But anyway, so back to whether you can play injured or hurt. I would be suffice to say, yeah, you definitely can play hurt, but I would definitely not advise that you attempt or try to play while injured. Again, Kobe did it. So, there are a lot of little boys out there aspiring to be Kobe. But do you want to have a life after that sport is what I would ask right now. And of course, Kobe had enough money to probably freeze some things on his body and try to make things better. Those are some of those alternative things that people are continuing to do today. But we're talking about reality. We're talking about you. We're talking about the fact that there is a huge percentage that don't make it to that professional level, right? We're talking about there's a huge percentage that make it, but don't make it to the success of a Kobe Bryant, of a Larry Bird, of a Magic Johnson, of a Michael Jordan, those people, right? And so that's the reality. And it's never to try to stunt your dreams or your hopes or anything like that. But the reality is you're not a robot. The reality is there is not enough money that you should be getting paid to be seriously injured and go back out on the court or go back out on the track or go back out on the mat or whatever your sport may be. And that's the one thing. So can you play injured? Absolutely, I guess, if it's in your mind. But most people that get injured get carried off. They're not there anymore. They have to go and they have to do something. Elle talked about surgeries and physical therapies being the start of most recoveries, especially when you're injured, right? But when you're hurt, let's shift. Let's go back to when you're hurt. When my son had played every game his high school football career, and he had a hamstring thing that happened while he was in camp coming up to the season. First game, right? The coach sat him out the game. I thought I was going to have to go and kill that coach because my son did not want to sit out. He felt like, I'm just hurt, I'm good. But if you know anything about a hamstring as well, a lot of those things, a lot of injuries, a lot of times when you're hurt, your body is saying, hey, rest. Hey, sit down for a spell. Hey, take this play off. But when you are a competitive athlete, when you are an alpha athlete, when you are the athlete that is like, I need to be out there, I want to be out there, it is so difficult to get that athlete to sit down. And so, which is why I'm excited about this series, because we're going to be talking about things, or they're going to be talking about things in the series that's going to try to encourage people that there are other methods that you can do. First off, to stay healthy, because that's number one, right? If you stay healthy, you don't have this injury, you don't have to have any surgeries. That's what you want. That's really where you want to be. But in the same token, when you are hurt, recognizing that I can live to play another day longer, probably, if I stop playing while I'm hurt. If I just rest this thing, the world's not going to end, especially in a high school match, a college match, even a professional match, because you're not on the field, on the court, on whatever, right? And so those are some of the things that I just wanted to share with you today from a mother's perspective, from an athlete's perspective, that you are worth so much more than just being out there playing injured or hurt. And yes, you get kudos, you get toughness. You hear about athletes, man, this kid, he just doesn't stop, or she just doesn't stop. She goes and even when she's this, she's playing, even when she's this. And all I'm saying today is that a good thing? Absolutely. When people want to cheer you on and want to congratulate you on doing good things such as that. But it could also be a bad thing for your body, for your longevity, for your ability to continue to play. There was something else that I wanted to get into as far as other athletes. Like when you talk about professionals, it's so competitive. They draft somebody every year for your same position. Even in college, they're recruiting other guys to come in the next year after you've gotten there. And so it is competitive. But when you are a true athlete, the number one priority should be staying healthy, remaining healthy, not trying to prove to someone else that you're better, but just continuing to hone your craft, continuing to get better at the things that you were born to do, because you can't convince these young men. My son hosts a camp here in Greer, and you couldn't convince those little boys that they're not going to be NFL players. And, but like I said, the reality is there's a very small percent that actually even makes it to that far, let alone the college level, which is why me and my husband now, and he's leading that charge as far as sports consulting, we're trying to educate. We're trying to, and this summit is helping me, blessing me, because when we talk to people, we can refer people to those who can help them when they're injured. But, I talked to an NFL, or hopefully a future NFL dad, the other day, and I was encouraging him that your son just needs to be focused on, getting good numbers at his combine. He needs to, or his pro day, or whatever he was invited to, so that he can make it to where he wants. He shouldn't be worried about other stuff. And injuries sometimes can cause some issues with that. Injuries, you have guys who don't even perform at the combine. They may go, but they don't perform because they're hurt, because they're injured, because they played through college. I just heard about a young man that's pretty close to me that played hurt the entire college season this past season. He did phenomenal things the year before. I felt like he should have came out. I have no idea why he didn't come out. But anyway, he played hurt, and that's devastating to me. And I was like, if I could just get to his mama, because that baby shouldn't have played hurt. He shouldn't have played while he was injured, because I think it hurt his stock. Because you got to understand, it's all about that mighty dollar, guys. And I'm wrapping up here, because like I said, I can go on and on and on about these things, but it's all about that mighty dollar. But when you put yourself in a position to harm your own stock by playing injured, right? The NFL is all about numbers. The NBA is all about numbers. So, did he get these numbers? Did he make this number? Did he do better than this guy? But when you know yourself that a healthy you could have done 10 times better than that, why play injured? For your coach? I don't think so. Coaches leave, right? Even in the NFL, coaches get fired. You might be playing for a different coach next year and you don't even know it. So do what's best for you. And I want the parents and coaches that are listening to this, or the parents and the athletes that are listening to this, to always understand that. So if you are hurt, if you are injured, How dare a coach or someone else make you feel like, hey, you may lose your spot if you don't play today. If your body is not able to play next week, don't play. Do what's best for you. Do what's best for your body. You only get one. And I think that's all I have today. I hope I kind of touched on that playing injured versus being hurt thing. But like I said, it's really subjective because I gave you some examples of people that can play injured. Most people can't. But at the same time, I just want you to really take care of your body. Do the things that are right for you and your body. And now we're going to bring Miss Elle Kersey back out so she can chat with me a little bit more. Maybe she liked some of the stuff I said. Maybe she didn't. But we're going to bring the host back out here. Welcome back, Elle Kersey.
I am here. I am here. Girl, that was fire. That was all the way fire.
Oh, well, all's good. You know what? I was like, I better shut up. I had a little bit more, but I was like, let me stop.
Oh, well, we about to go some more deeper into the paint because I think that people are so conditioned because of the American dream to go from one space to the next, right?
Right.
You want to, and we are so ambitious and we are so desirous of success. And so we allow in some situations for success to be defined by accomplishments. And we can lose sight of what's important. And I know this is going to be crazy, but that the Disney movie that just came out, Encanto, the point of the movie was that even though each of the people in this family were given these special gifts, the gift really was just the person themselves and not what they can contribute. So I think that we have to really be aware and remember that even though, yes, we do want to make it to the NFL. Yes, we do want to be a star. Yes, we do want to, hit threes all day from the paint. I mean, from the top of the key, I meant to say. But the thing is are we doing it where we are the value? We are the priority. We are what makes the magic. So the question is, what's the most valuable? The creator of the magic or the magic?
Wow. Right. Well, but I think that's big too. I think that has to come from us because I do think in the game of things, like I said, it all goes to money, right? So when you're coming from a coach's perspective and this is your star player, but he's gotten injured, right? So, but you, that player, somebody on the sideline, somebody in his ear has to be telling him that you are the magic. That without you, there is no magic. And it's not to dim anyone else's light. It's not to mean that someone else can't step up. I mean, but great teams, championship teams, there's always someone else that steps up or someone else who's ready to step up or someone else who's capable to step up. But it takes nothing away from that athlete that shined the entire year. Exactly. And that's the reality. That's what we have to understand. But so many of these babies are being tricked. They're being bamboozled. They're being fooled. They're being lied to. And that's the perspective because from a mom's perspective, no, I want my sons to understand that you don't have to do anything. I know this is your dream. I know this is your passion, but don't you allow someone to make you feel like you're obligated to do it when they can seriously walk away for another check, walk away for something better, and they won't even call you. They're not going to call back to check on you. It's on to the next thing.
Exactly. And then you also have whose perspective are you operating from, right? From a coach, the coach is like, I have to win games. And it's more important. Not all coaches are like that, but sometimes, it's like you get, and it's just the focus. It's like we have to win these games so that next year there is a team. That's a lot of times, next year we do get the budget that we need, right? So we can help the next set of people. And so it's not malicious necessarily. I don't want to give that impression, but we do want to know and we do want to understand and share that you have to be the advocate. It's just like for me, okay, so the last several years I had to be my dad's medical advocate because one, even though he knew full well what was going on and what he wanted, when you're in pain, you're just like, you can't fully process information. Pain is a mental dimmer, right? So something that you would not have done when you were not in pain, you would sometimes agree to, or not fully comprehend or think about the consequences other than I need to get out of pain, right?
Right.
So you're going to take whatever the easy road is. And the easy road is not, and what seems to be the easy road is not always the easy road.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and I agree with that. I think a lot of coaches, what we've learned, especially at the amateur level, a lot of coaches, I think it's different when there are coaches that have actually played, right? But a lot of coaches are in this game, and you'd be surprised at how many coaches, I mean, may have been walk-ons, may have never played a snap, this, that, and the other, but they got the coaching job because I guess they got the degrees or whatever. They meet the criteria. Maybe they just got a different look, right? Because some of we're having that debate in the NFL now about, what the coaches and the owners and different things look like. But I think it's different when it's from that perspective. But when you have someone that is in it for the wrong, that really could care less, that are just trying to get to their next level and their next paycheck, they are not thinking about those athletes the way that they should. And again, it's never about bashing anybody, but I want to be honest, and I want to talk about, things that I faced. Like one particular situation, my husband actually asked the coach, have you ever played? Because of just some decisions that the coach was making, right? And but the answer was no. And so I was like, well, how can this guy, and it was an older gentleman as well. It was like, well, how can this guy have what the best interest of my son, who was a teenager at the time, how could he possibly have his best interest? And the guy ended up getting fired and moving on to a different job and this and that. But we still sit back and go, well, how is he getting all these jobs? Are they not asking these questions? So anyway, but like you said, the perspective definitely matters. It definitely, because you're right. Coaches, they got to win games and they're supposed to be doing what they're supposed to do. But at the same time, a lot of times parents, we entrust our babies into these coaches. So we need to know who we're entrusting our babies into, because again, they can play for a team, but you still need to be the advocate for your child.
Yes. At all levels.
All levels. Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely.
So let's get into the Q&A session part of this. So first question that we have is, would you say that prevention is the best cure for injuries? Sorry, my bad.
Oh, I was like, did you
I'm
not?
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I thought I had it all.
So when you talk about prevention, are you speaking more to like when I was like, warming up before you get out there, or doing stretches or things like that? Like when you say prevention, I'm kind of wondering, because I would say yes to answer the question, but I just wanted to be clear.
Yes, I think the question comes from a space of, do you think that, making sure that you're warmed up, making sure that you're fully stretched, making sure that like the condition of your body, so that before you go out on the field, like if you are not feeling 100%, why are you not feeling 100%?
Oh gosh, yes.
And are you prepared to play?
Yes, I definitely think that prevention is key, but I also think awareness is, because understanding the mind. So one of the things that for the last, I would say probably 6 to 7 years that I've learned just from my athletes is they are not thinking clearly. First off, it's so competitive. The motivation that coaches, trainers, that everybody's using is, oh, you got to do it because, if you don't do it, somebody else is going to do it. And so they have to be in a place, though, of clear thinking, or at least that someone else has that's not the coach, that's not the trainer, has been talking to them from a place of love. I constantly remind my kids, I'm your mom first before anything. So I'm definitely going to have your best interests at heart over anything I believe in anybody else. But if that young man or young woman isn't really thinking clearly, if that's all they're hearing is what that coach is telling them or what that trainer is telling them, oh no, I'm going to go out there just because I want to make my mark, knowing that your ankle's not at 100%, knowing that your hamstring just dang near popped, but you're going to go out there because you feel like that's the only way for you to make your mark.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I think that we have to, I think that that's like a balance, right? You have to have that balance because it
Absolutely.
is true. If you get injured and you're gone for too long, then you might miss your opportunity.
That's
But
good.
that's why the prevention is the key, right? When you
Absolutely.
are warmed up, if you are stretched up, you have less chance of actually getting hurt or injured, right?
Right.
So that's
Right.
the thing. So just
Absolutely.
not getting hurt or injured. But we know certain sports are, there's two sports. There's football and rugby. Those are 100% injury sports. If you
Mhm.
play those games, you get hurt
Right.
or injured or whatever. So it's important to know your limit, to know that, okay, so this is more than just a small situation that,
Right.
and we're going to talk later about like the Rice method and how it's been debunked, and how that all that kind of stuff is still being used, even though it's not even though it's not the cure all as it's been touted for 44 years. So there's a lot of things coming in the series around that. So we'll that's why we're doing it as a series, so we can explain in like the different elements that are going into helping people. And that's why I wanted to start with this conversation first, and how it is so important to not be uh suckered, right? Don't
Mhm.
like, don't be a sucker, like from the 70s. Just don't be a sucker, because they can play you, because you I want to be like so clear, because like always hear the young people saying don't get played, don't get played. You are getting played regardless. And if you and one line from a movie that I super love is um um it was Devil in a Blue Dress. It was Denzel Washington, and I can't remember the character's name who this was, but he was like the main gangster guy. And he was like, look, when you wake up in the morning, you're going to be mixed up into something no matter what. So the question is whether you're going to be mixed up at the bottom or you're going to be mixed up at the top. So my thing when it comes to sports, and that I'm new to understanding this whole backside of sports. Right. And so the thing is looking at that and going, okay, so you're going to get, that you in this game, that you got things going on, what your goals are. So you have
Right.
to understand the underlying necessities to being able to be successful at reaching that pinnacle.
Absolutely.
We're talking about Kobe. If you want to be like Kobe, you can be like Kobe without the injuries.
Well, right, absolutely. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. I wanted to go back to what you were saying about the saying, or don't be a son. I think that life, and just being like a coach, just in general, in so many different facets. I talk to people about this all the time, that everything's a game. Like when I'm dealing with executives and they're talking about their corporate entity and they're talking about how this person's getting paid more and they do more and this, it's a game, right? But it's
Mhm.
up to you to what piece in the game that you are, right? If you can control, or let's look at chess, if you can control, being the piece that you want to be at the time that you want to be, that's what it's about. And there's no difference in sports, because again, everybody is in it to get something, as the athlete as well. But
Yeah.
you've got to be able to play your role, to know when you come in, know when to enter, know when to exit, know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know what to do when you need to do it, and not allow someone else to just pull your strings and be a puppet for you. Because a lot of times that's what happens with athletes. They end up being the puppet, and somebody's got their hand up their butt, right? So
Right.
so
Yes.
you have to control that. But I think life is a game, and sports is no different. But we have to know our role in that game, and in a lot of instances we have to be able to control our role in that game. And that doesn't mean
Absolutely.
you've got to be the owner to do that. That just means that knowing where you fit in and playing, like you said, I don't want to get injured, so I'm going to do the things to prevent myself from being injured. I'm going to do the things that's going to put me in the best position, because I can't expect the owner to do that. I don't even expect the coach to do that. I mean, me and my husband have conversations all the time about coaches don't positioning is always like, so this kid did this and this in college, and now he comes to the NFL, and it's like limits have been put on him. And yes, they have tons of guys that they're bringing in and out, but do you want to win or not?
Right. And that's
so anyway.
Okay, so we got questions coming in from, I think, other social platforms. So they're being sent to us. So we're going to give each question a short answer.
Okay, all right. Okay?
So next question is, how do you know when to put yourself first?
Well, I'm the wrong person to ask that question because I'm always first. I mean, like,
exactly. I was going to say the same thing.
I love me. I love me, and I try to, especially with my family, I've tried to train my athletes. I mean, and even those who have stopped playing different things. My daughter sings. Even in you think the entertainment industry is any different? You know, like, so how do I know to put myself first? How do I know to value myself? I got to love myself first. I'm going to always have my best interest at heart. So if someone is saying something to me that's not that, I got to rethink that. Exactly. I got to look at it differently.
And also, you people always think like, I'm part of the team. I'm part of the team. There's no I in team. Well, that's not true. That's not true because and the reason why is you have to have some I in the team because you have to be able to bring your best. If you can't bring your best, then you're not really supporting your team. And that's in business and in sports. You know, my world is business, you know, and when somebody doesn't show up and they don't bring their A game, oh, I forgot my laptop. Oh, I forgot the hard drive. Oh, I forgot. Well, then we got a problem, huh?
I want to say Kobe did an interview and he said like that there's no I in team. That's almost for suckers. And I know somebody's going to get me for saying that. But if you ask Larry Bird, if you ask Magic Johnson, if you ask Kobe Bryant, if you ask Michael Jordan, okay, I'm who I am. I'm going to make you better. Like, that's how they believed in themselves. And that's what they did. And so the proof is in the pudding. So people who say, yeah, I get the team player aspect. I think that those guys were the ultimate team players, but because they were so good at being themselves and what they brought to the table was valuable. So, I mean.
Exactly. I agree. Okay. So next question. Is it good to have friends that can get you a higher paying job? So if you're not qualified, I guess if you're not qualified, but you're like, but you know, your friend, okay, so I guess I'm trying to figure out how to.
No, I got it. Okay. If it works for you, I mean, if you know somebody, because when people say it's about who you know, it's not about who you know, it's about who knows you. So if I know L and L can put me in a position and I believe that I can perform highly at that position, what difference does it make whether I have the degree or I have the different qualifications? I believe in myself enough to say I'm going to perform this position. And just because my friend hooked me up with it, this is America, y'all. I mean, somebody's living in a different world because that happens every day, all day.
Yes. And it's in most positions, you have to go to the job to learn anyway. So even if you have a degree, especially like marketing and stuff, I meet people all the time. They're like, I love to come work with you. I have a degree in this. I have a degree in that. And I'm like, okay. So, and I just ask like some basic questions because I don't believe in titles for one. And I also don't believe that just because you are, you have, somebody told you, right? Because that's what a degree is. Somebody told you that you know how to do something, and most of the time it's not accurate. And because I have lots of education and things, and just because I wanted to know, and because of how I learned, I could probably do it. But would I pick myself to hire for that position when I don't have like real world experience? I would probably say no.
Right.
So I think that, you know, getting a hookup can be good if you have the skill set.
Absolutely. But the skill set, that it isn't that subjective. Like you said, you ask certain questions because you're looking for something, right? Someone else could be looking for something totally different. But I mean, even education now is subjective. There are people that are cheating their way through schools. Doesn't mean they can't still do the work, but that just means that they're actually maybe working a little smarter than harder. I mean, I don't know. You don't shoot the messenger, but that's
true. Do not be saying people okay to cheat. Do not be cheating on school.
Hey, don't shoot the messenger.
All right. Well, okay. So then what about, so the next question is, should you ever work, well, we talked about this. So working through, so the question is, should you ever work through the pain? So I would say, yes, you should work through the pain if it's not excruciating and you are able to, um, and you're not like injured. You have to work through the pain. You banged your arm, okay? It's not broken, it's not hurt. You know later on you're going to be able to take care of it. You can continue to play, I would say. But if you like felt you hit something and you felt it crack, you need to quit.
I think we got to be honest. So that's where the athlete comes to being honest with themselves and really living in a reality world. Because 9 times out of 10, when things happen, that's not the first time they've happened. They've already been playing through something, right? And so
Yes, that is
that,
a big
you know
part
what I
of
mean? Like,
it.
so you know, we can lie to ourselves and be like, oh yes, okay. My son told me one time, right? It's a playoff game. We hadn't been to the playoffs in a while, and he got kind of cracked back. He got hit blindside, right, by some guy, right, which is one of the worst things. You know, it's a penalty in the. It should have been a penalty, but anyway, um, they brought him out of the game for a play, and because I was just kind of like, oh my god, he just clobbered my child, and later, much later, my son admitted to me he could not see out of one side of his face. Okay.
Oh,
My son was on the sideline saying, put me back in. So I said that to say we lie to ourselves. So I'm gonna tell people you don't be playing through nothing because
okay.
you was playing through it last week, and
That's
this week
true. It
somebody
shouldn't be.
just
It
saw
shouldn't be
you
chronic.
gimpy.
Right. I agree. Okay. So
So
I amend my
that's
statement. It should be
I
chronic.
don't. Is it worth that? Are you getting a check after the game? Maybe might be worth it if you get a check. If you ain't getting no check after the game, sit your tail down. Just sit down. Take a rest. At least take a few plays off.
I think all of this is something that you that and you have to have somebody that's your advocate, right? That
Right.
you are honest with and that you are telling everything. Because what I did find out in moving into this foray of helping players overcome these traumatic injuries is that they have been hiding things and not telling everything for extended periods of time. Okay.
I'm
So,
telling
and
you.
there are things that they're like, oh, I just, and you listen to Julian Edelman's story, and he's like, oh, I was just working through this for forever, and I mean, and he's like, you do these little things that keep you from getting further injured, and I'm like, wow, what? And okay, so in my mind, you know me, that's not good.
Right.
But that's going to bring me to my final question
Okay.
of this whole thing, and it's how is it different going from college to NFL as a player's mom?
Oh. I don't like it right now, just because. So college is the difference is in college you at least have 3 years because the players are required to play or be there for 3 years until they can even get to the league, right? So you build relationships. In the pros, everything is it's business. Even with the mamas, it's business. I mean, ain't nobody who their son is a DB. They really ain't trying to be friends with me because my son's the new kid on the block, and they baby trying to get his next contract. So, and there are spaces to where it's better, but your kid can also be in one place today and be traded tomorrow. So you don't have time to really build those relationships unless you're in a group or you're in a forum where it's focused on that. In college, we were forced to be together at least for 3 years. I mean, my son's class, right? And then not to mention the babies that are coming in after because they got a new class coming in every year. So, but it's just so business oriented in the NFL. I think moms don't like to get attached because again, their baby could be somewhere else. I also think that they're worried about their baby's paycheck. They may have a family, they may have kids. So it's business. It's more business. And in college, we had fun. We had a blast. Nobody was worried about no checks. I do know there were situations where some moms felt like, oh, my kid should be playing over him. But at the same time, we were just mamas trying to support each other, trying to be there for each other, trying to hug on each other. And it's totally different in the professional realm.
Okay. All right. Well, I am very grateful and very happy to have you come on and set the tone for this summit. I believe that your input is extremely valuable,
Thank you.
and I am sure that I'm going to call you again to have some more conversation during this summit because there's so many things to unpack and so much conversation to have, and there's so much. Um, Greatness in the players, greatness in the leagues that go, I would say that could be enhanced, right?
Absolutely.
And so what we're looking for is an opportunity that to if you love football, then you know that you love football, you love any sport really. You know that the game, the leagues, all they suffer when the good players aren't there. Look
Hmm.
at baseball right now. The last time that baseball was everything was when Barry Bonds and A Rod and all them were
Hmm.
out there together. Sammy Sosa and all them are doing their thing, and people are coming to see it. Now I think that baseball numbers are really down, and it's been down for a while until they get some more players that people are excited to come out and see.
Right. Well, and baseball just has shifted too because everybody you named are, pretty much American players, but they go and get guys from elsewhere a lot too. So you don't know the guys like that.
Hmm.
Those guys go back home. When
Right.
they're not in season or whatever. And so yeah, I think you're right. But I'm happy to be here. So I believe in what you're doing. I definitely believe in education. My thing is empowerment, empowering others. Like you don't have to, and knowledge is power, but only if you use it. So I think that some of the stuff that you're going to be sharing throughout this series, it's going to be valuable information for parents, for the athletes. And like I said, even if people see it later, you can't discount that. You cannot discount what you're trying to get out here in the atmosphere, let alone what you're doing. So I believe in this summit. I thank you for having me be a part of it. And so, yes, absolutely. I'll definitely come back when you need me to.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We are going to pause the session so we can get ready for our next speaker, who is Tremaine Bowman, and we are looking forward to it. So thank you so much, Angela Pride, for being here today. I am very, very grateful.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. And guys, I'm all over social media. You can follow me on Instagram, Recruiting Gems. You can follow me on Facebook. I'm Angela Pride. Thank y'all so much. And I
Yes,
look forward to
and
hearing from you.
yes, and you guys will actually get emails and stuff from about Angela and all that kind of good stuff. So it's that's a good part about having you sign up so we can let you know how you can find your favorite speaker and information about them. And also Angela, of course, this will be played again. Like we're gonna post it on social media.
Oh,
Um,
great.
it'll get to play probably for quite a while, so we're pretty excited about that.
Awesome. Awesome.
All right, bye.
Bye bye.
All right, you guys, we are going to take a 2 minute break. Actually, it looks like we are a little bit early. Actually, no, we're right on time. So yeah, we're going to take a 2 minute break. We'll be back at 12:55. Melanie's the screen. Hey, welcome back to the Master Your Recovery Virtual Summit series. We are talking about specific details today in regards to playing hurt versus playing injured and what can happen when these issues are handled well or not. And what you will discover is how you can find relief by partnering with the right kind of complementary therapy services to help you overcome these types of challenges. Right now, post traumatic pain accounts for 14% of all disabilities worldwide. And it includes localized pain, such as low back pain, knee pain, shoulder pain, and even general joint pain. I am your host, And I am El Kersey, and I am elated to introduce you to our second speaker of this session, Tremaine Bowman. When he was a young man, he had dreams of NFL stardom. An injury and an attempt to come back too soon stole those dreams. A strong pivot to help other players and become a man of the cloth has led his once powerhouse on the field to become a powerhouse on the sidelines. So we want to go ahead and welcome back Tremaine Bowman to the stage. All right. There we go. So
All right.
welcome. And you can take the stage, sir.
Well, thank you so much, El, for this invitation to come out and share with the people of Master Your Recovery in the summit. I think it is a wonderful thing that you are doing and spreading the word and sharing with people how to master recovery. Just a little bit about myself. I am a husband. I am a father. I'm also a pastor. I'm a coach. And so I've seen a broad spectrum of people who participate in athletics. So those who participate from a recreational level to those who participate on a high school level and have even helped people become college level players and professional players as well. I've been coaching in the high school level for about 14 years, consisting of football, basketball, and track and field. Um, I participated in high school sports. I was a collegiate athlete at Charleston Southern University. And so even, and I'm going to share my story with you guys today. And even with the injuries that I had in my high school career, I was still able to attain a level of the collegiate level of playing sports. But and so that's just a little bit of my background and who I am now. I used to be that athlete, that alpha male athlete. I'm not going to say I was the best athlete on the team, on any of my teams, but I was really good, good enough to get looked at from a few schools, and have an opportunity again to play sports at the collegiate level. Um, I consider myself a community leader in the Charleston area, which is where we're based out of, Summerville, South Carolina, the Charleston area in which I coach. And so I think it's important to be able to talk about difficult subjects, right? And to have a good space, a good place to be able to share those things. So again, I thank God for this summit, and I wish that I had kind of something like this to help steer me in the right direction or a better direction when I was participating in sports as a high school athlete. I consider myself a late bloomer. I really didn't start playing sports until I was in the 7th grade. I started playing football. As a kid, I was obese, so I didn't meet the recreational league's weight requirements. I was, about 250, 260 pounds at, 6th, 7th grade. And so, but by the time I got to the 7th grade, I had slimmed down to probably about 240, about 5'10". So I was an abnormally large kid for like that age. I didn't continue to grow at that rate, but at that time I was a pretty big kid. And even from playing in middle school, I played with some phenomenal athletes. Athletes that eventually went on to become the number 1 and number 2 linebackers in the nation. And they were brothers, playing with other collegiate level football players. Like I said, I was a heavier kid, but I loved the game of basketball. Didn't make the middle school basketball team. But then it also led me to finding track and field. And that was a sport that I excelled in pretty quickly, and throwing the shot put and discus. And so, those things contributed to my self-esteem, to my self-efficacy, how I viewed myself. And that was largely through the lens of how other people view me as well. I found a lot of value in being able to contribute to a team. I found a lot of value in the praise that you got for performing well and doing well in sports. And so it became a huge part of my life. I worked really hard from my middle school to my high school career. Track helped me, football helped me lose the weight and shed the pounds. So I went from about 240 as a as a seventh and eighth grader to I was 185 pounds as a freshman coming into high school, playing high school football. And so I had a lot of different transformations that occurred over the years. And I gotta say that sports really helped change my life. And so I was given to it. I was the ultimate competitor. I would ride and die for the opportunity to be on the field, to compete, to be in the ring, to compete. And like I said, I was actually a four-sport athlete in high school: football, basketball, wrestling, and track and field. And so, like, I consider myself that I've been a really, really good athlete. I was ranked in the state number one a few times in track and field. I was ranked in the state for wrestling. I wasn't the greatest basketball player. Everybody has hoop dreams, right? And so I thought I was pretty good. But again, in football, I had the opportunity to play at the next level, at least get looked at. I didn't get any official offers after my sports injury. But I can fast forward a little bit. Freshman year, everything was fine. I lost the weight, so I was moving very agile, picking up speed and agility, those type of things, moving fantastically. Sophomore year, moved up to varsity, became a starter. And that just, it inflates your head, make you think you can do everything and anything in the world. We ended up winning the state championship in 1998 against Baseburg Leesville, playing at Williams-Brice Stadium. And that feeling was amazing. Getting to play at a college stadium, you get to play in front of thousands and thousands of fans. And coming from a smaller school, that was something that I had never really experienced before. Fast forward to the summer of that year, I started going to football camps, and the coaches started taking notice. They were like, "Oh man, your first step is amazing. I could get off the ball so well and rush the passer." And so, it gave me the mindset coming from an impoverished situation that I could make it out of my current situation and really do something with my life. Before that, I hadn't really thought about it, hadn't really considered it. I was just always pretty good at a lot of different stuff. And so I took it even more serious, and I started putting weight back on, putting muscle back on, hitting the weights really hard. But then my junior year, got a pinched nerve in my neck and in my shoulder from taking on two blockers. So that kind of hampered my ability to go. And I heard, I think it was Erica that spoke earlier. I even had a similar situation playing against a team where I hit a guy so hard that I felt like my eyes had went cross. I was cross-eyed for a second, and I had to come out the game, went to the sideline, and shake it off. And as soon as I gained my vision back and it was right, I went right back on the field and started playing again. So definitely the ultimate competitor in my eyes. Fast forward to my senior year, a rivalry game. And this is where my life really took a drastic turn. Playing in a rivalry game against Abbeville High School. They are still a powerhouse in South Carolina to this day. We had never beaten them before, so we were really, really competing as seniors. This was a goal. We wanted to beat this team. And I got moved into the interior of the line, got high load on a play, and I tore my Achilles tendon. And at that point, my life changed forever. It changed forever. I couldn't lift up my foot, and move it. And I knew something was wrong. This was not something that I could go to the sideline and shake off and get back in the game. It wasn't something that was going to be okay, in 10 minutes. It wasn't something that was going to be okay that following week. So when I got the diagnosis that next morning, I knew that I had to figure out what I was going to do. They told me I had two options because I tore it, but it was a partial tear, but significant enough to where I could either have surgery and my season would be over, or I could opt to get it put in a cast. Obviously, I have to walk on crutches, and then have the potential, have the possibility that I would be able to come back that season and play. And so I chose to try to come back that season and play. Um, I did everything I could. I rested when I was in the cast. Obviously, you can't do much, but I was out there trying to ride the bike, trying to stay in shape. Obviously being at practice every single day, watching my team, being involved, being engaged. Trying to coach up some of the younger players. That's what good teammates do. And so when I finally got my cast off, and they were like, "Yeah, you can go ahead and start your PT." I started my physical therapy. I was going in the morning before school to get in the cold whirlpool, to ice, to try to do TheraBand work and all that good stuff to get the strength back so I could return to play. I would go in at lunchtime. I would not even eat lunch and go to the training room and get treatment, trying to get back. After school, I would go and try to and get treatment, hitting that cold whirlpool, doing all those things, doing everything that the trainers asked me to do to try to get back to play for the remainder of my senior season. And even after all of that, again, I was the ultimate competitor. I had known about, the great NFL players who played injured, who played, hurt, that would go out there and just do what they had to do and find a way. That was the stuff that legacies were made of. Can you overcome the obstacle? Can you brave the elements? Can you resist the urge to shrink back in the crucial moments? Can you work your way in order to get and achieve your goals? And so I did that. I bought all the way into it, not realizing that high school sports was just that. It was high school sports. You got 4, possibly 5 years to do the different sports, and then that chapter of your life is going to be over. But I did what I thought I was supposed to be doing, and I worked my way back. Practiced 2 games, got cleared to return to play. Practiced twice before our first playoff game. First playoff game, senior year. Didn't start. I wasn't 100%. I was still limping around at practice, but I was out there. I was excited. The testosterone, the energy felt so good. Got back, played in that playoff game, one play. One play. And after that one play, I messed up the ligaments in that same leg around my ankles, and my explosiveness has never recovered to this day, and I've never been the same. Was it worth it? What was it worth risking my future for one play? I think if I had been 100%, obviously it's a no-brainer. But that one play showed me that I couldn't put all of my eggs in one basket, and that there were other things that I could contribute and other things I could do. But for that one play, was all the rehab and was all the time and the effort and the energy, was it worth it? Because when I re-injured my leg, nobody patted me on the back. That praise that I was looking for, that excitement I was looking for, it wasn't there. Everybody was just disappointed that I couldn't play. So did I really lift my team up, or did I let them down? We ended up losing that game 3-0. We ended up losing that game 3-0. Was it worth it? And so I ended up not getting a college offer to play football. Didn't get a college offer. Uh, had some interest for wrestling. Obviously, I couldn't play basketball. I didn't have any explosiveness, so I missed an opportunity there as well. Because in basketball, we made it to the state championship. I played 2 years before. In basketball, we made it to the state championship my senior year. Couldn't play. Couldn't play. I wrestled instead, and I had tape from the tip of my big toe all the way up to my kneecap. I'm out there trying to wrestle, trying to contribute, trying to compete. For what? So I leave that early to go into track and field, which was my second best sport. Um, Come in, I'm highly ranked, top 5, uh, and ready to go, thinking I was ready to go. And I was bombing it right from the beginning. I did not have my explosiveness. I couldn't understand. I thought I should just be able to get back out there and just do what I have been doing for 5 years, compete at the highest level. And instead, I was dragging. I didn't have the quickness to transition from one part of the circle to the next part of the circle. Didn't have the explosiveness to finish big. And so, but and it led me to question God. I'd always been in church my whole life, but it led me to question God, to say, well, God, you gave me all this talent and this ability. You got me ranked #1 in the state again this year after all of this, and I still don't have a college offer. I still don't know what my future is going to be. I still don't even know what I'm doing. I did all of this, and I'm going to be stuck here. I'm going to be stuck in my hometown, can't do anything. But eventually I did get a college offer to do track and field and to do football, as a kind of a preferred walk on. But it was really, they were giving me money for track and field to do both. And I got to college. I signed. I got to college. Started going through the treatment process, the rehab process, and it never took. So I went from high school rehab to college rehab, and it still didn't help, because I believe they were focusing on the wrong thing. And so every year after that happened, I re-injured my ankles every single year. So by the time I got to being a sophomore in college, I was ready to stop doing track, and I said I might as well go ahead and try to play football again. But by that time, the coach had changed. New coach that came in didn't know me and wanted me to walk on. I was like, yeah, that's not going to happen. And so that was virtually the end of my football career. The thing that I love most, my first love. And so I say all of that to say that this summit is important, because oftentimes we don't have the right people in our ear to tell us that it might not be worth it. I might not have been the #1 recruit in the nation. I might not even been top 50 or 100 in the state, but there was a legitimate chance that I could go and play at the next level. I was big enough. I was strong enough. I might not have been tall enough. I only grew to 6 foot. I might not have been tall enough, but I was big enough. I was strong enough. I was quick enough. I had the goods. The coaches told me. But when I got injured, I did not get an offer. I did not get not even to the smaller schools that were recruiting me. I did not get an offer. And so I see kids now as a coach 14 years later. And again, I've coached kids to go to every level except the NBA, right? I've coached NFL players coming through high school. I've even coached an Olympian, right? Raven Saunders, who just won the silver medal in the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, just won a silver medal. I coached her in high school, got her started in her track and field career. And so I've seen athletes at every level and what it takes to get there. And I'm actually blessed, and I thank God that I did not get there, because obviously there was a turn in my life to where I think I probably would have been very selfish. I would have been big-headed. I was already big-headed because I knew I was good, but I probably would have been really big-headed about the whole situation. And instead, God has led me to a place where I can impart and input the stuff that I know. And I had good coaches. And so I feel like I became a good coach to kids who needed it and who were able to take it and go to the next level. And I'm still coaching now. I just retired from coaching football last year. I'm thinking this is going to be my last year coaching basketball this year. I do have an AAU team, and I have a number of girls who are college players or who made it to college over the last 10 years in playing basketball. Like I said, NFL, Olympics, and all that good stuff. So I think it's made me a better coach, to where I can coach with a sense of endearment and a sense of sensitivity to the athlete the athlete problem, right? Because we want to be competitors, we want to contribute, we want to do the things that we feel like makes you a great athlete. And so, having gone through the things I've gone through, I'm able to coach with that level of sensitivity where I'm going to tell you that you got to do what's best for you. That you have to think about your future, that you have to think about your dreams and your aspirations, and not to be short-sighted in what those dreams and aspirations are, because your dreams are futuristic. you know it may not be a dream for you right now, unless I'm in a season and my dream is to win the state championship. Well, if you're injured, how do you do that? Can you realistically expect to win at the rate and the level that you're in now with your body not being whole, right? And so we have to take it very serious. We have to take it with a great sense of gravity, right? That you only get one body. And yeah, you can have a knee replacement, and yeah, you can have a hip replacement, and all those different things. You can have Tommy John surgeries. You can do all those different things, but you only get one body. And what I caution young athletes with is I tell them this, and I'm very honest. I say you have to live with yourself after whatever decision you make. You got to be able to live with yourself. Now, if you can live with being hunched over and, what I'm saying, not being able to walk good, hey, I don't want to tell you can't when you think you can. But if your body shows you that you can't, you have to listen to it. You have to listen to what it says. Now, those are athletes at the high school level. But I also see children at the recreational level who don't have the mindset and don't have the maturity to really think about their future. There are certain things that I've never heard children say. And I'm talking about kids, up to 10, 11, 12, 13 years old. I never uh, I never hear them think so far or have a plan about how they plan to get to the NBA or the NFL or whatever it is that their athletic aspirations are. They never have a plan. They just know they want to get there. And what they think is that the way I've seen it done before, or the way I've heard it done before, is the way to get there. And so we put on for even our youngest athletes that you have to be tough. And I agree. Yeah, you have to be tough, but you also have to be honest, and you also have to be smart. And if you're willing to put the work in on the field, that you have to legitimately be willing to put the work in your rehab and your recovery process. Those young people, those children, they're not going to tell you my leg is hurting and something ain't right. They're not going to tell you that there's a clicking in my knee. They're not going to tell you, oh, I can't, they may say, oh, I can't really bend my finger, but you might think it's jammed. And so you don't really pay attention to the signs that this might be a serious thing, right? And so by the time they get to me on the varsity level, or even at JV, even JV level, by the time they get to me, I'm looking at them in tryouts, or I'm looking at them in AAU tryouts, or whatever the case may be, and I'm saying, why are they running like that? Why is their movement disjointed? Why, is there a lack of continuity as they transition between phases of running? And that's a telltale sign. No matter what sport you're playing, a few sports like golf, maybe bowling, you don't run, swimming, obviously. But if you're playing a sport where you are running, it's a telltale sign. When you can't run with fluidity, when you don't have, a coordination to your movements, it made me thinking, well, what happened to them when they were younger that causes them to move the way they're moving? And why wasn't it addressed? And now you're looking at the coach like, why my baby didn't make the team? Well, maybe they should have stopped playing when they got injured at the YMCA league and really got that thing looked at and taken care of before we push them to just be tough and just go out there, you know. And so I think there's a level of care and concern that goes into what we do as coaches and what we do as parents, and ultimately for the players to really be concerned about yourself and your future goals that may not have anything to do with athletics. You know, I touted the athleticism, but I was a National Honor Society member. I graduated with a 3.5 GPA without trying. No effort academically at all. And so, you know, there was certainly more to contribute than just the sports, but you know, those pats on the back feel so good. The rah rah feels so good. The celebration, it gives us something that we don't get enough of, for doing other things. And so we push our athletes to play injured and to play hurt. And there's a quote that says, I think it might be Teddy Roosevelt, that said, "Only you know when you're giving 100%. Everybody else just knows when you don't." Right? And that, you know, I used to use that quote all the time. You know when you're giving 100%. You know, other people are just on the outside looking in. They don't know what your body feels like. You know, they don't know the pain that you might be going through. They might not even know that you pop in multiple ibuprofen, you know, before you even go to a practice. They don't know, you know, that you like can't sleep at night. You know, they don't know about all of those things. All they know is that it looks like you're going half speed. And so as a coach, I even had to get out of judging and communicate with my players even more. Like, you have to be honest with me. And I have girls who are tough as nails who don't want to tell me that they're hurt or they're injured because they think they're going to lose their spot, or they think, you know, the team is going to, you know, look down on them and stuff like that. And guess what? Guess what? That's a part of life. That's a part of life. But if people only value you for your performance, you got to change your circles. You got to change your circles, because at the end of the day, you got to be happy with yourself. You got to be able to live with yourself, and you only get one body, right? You only get one body. So diagnosed injuries, undiagnosed injuries, I think we have to take them seriously. It could change your life. Um, you know, like I might play pickup ball now, and I'm not gonna jump. Like, mentally, from all of the injuries, reoccurring injuries, like, I can still hoop. You know, I can still hoop, but will I get hurt again? Is my ankle strong enough? And I got a job now. You know, I don't want to miss the money, so it ain't like I'm just, you know, going to high school or in college where I can miss class, or, you know, as adults, you know, you get in those real life situations. And again, you got to be able to live with yourself. So I think, again, we got to take those injuries seriously, take your hurt seriously, because the hurt might be an indicator that you are actually injured. And if you are actually injured, then you have to make a business decision, right? You have to make a business decision, but a business decision does not trump a personal decision, right? It does not trump a personal decision. And don't let people push you into having to make that decision. I know the money's good, but you only get one body, right? You only get one body. And I think that's a message for, you know, so many people that don't make it to the pros. Because when you play professional ball and you're making millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars, you can afford to get that surgery to get your body back together on some level. But if you don't make it, now you may have a lifelong struggle without the aid of somebody like L, or people who will help you to master your recovery. So, with that being said, that's all I really have to say. I'd love to take some questions from you guys if you have any. Like I said, I've been around this, you know, sports for 14 years. So we're gonna bring L back, and thank y'all for your time.
All right. So the first comment that we got is, you really love playing football. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I think she's getting back on.
I'm on. Can you see me?
I can now.
Okay, good. All right. So I just had to play with the buttons a little bit. Okay, so what I said was, one of the comments was, you really loved Capital playing football.
Yeah. Listen, football is my first. Football is my first love. Like that, and you know, it is really common when you're a bigger kid. You know,
Mhm.
big kids always want to be receivers. You know, they always want to play quarterback. They always want to do those type of things. So, you know, I had a ton of athletic ability even as a big kid. When I was 275, you know, 280 going in 275 going in, thinking I was going to play football my freshman year, and like everybody used to comment like, "Man, how do you move like the way you move?" I've always had athleticism, so I was always kind of unique, you know, as a football player. I had a lot of size, but I had a lot of athleticism as well, and so you know, people, you know, comment, you know, how in the world can you do the things you're doing? I don't know. I guess I got my feet from my mama. I definitely got my shoulders from my daddy, you know, and so you know, those genes just kicked in, and I was able to just do stuff. So football was like that first place where I got the recognition that I was a little different than other people. So yeah,
Okay,
I
all
love
right.
playing football.
So since you love football so much, how long, now I know this had to be a challenge. How long did it take you to get over the fact that you were not going to make it to the NFL?
Woo! I had, man. Listen, I had graduated college. So the Achilles happened in 2000. Graduated 2001. Went to school, and it was probably 2010. It was probably a decade before I really came to grips with it. And I answered the call to preach in 2007. And so, you know, I was preaching and I was really wrestling with God about what had happened in my life because, you know, I saw other people go that couldn't couldn't do nothing with me. You know, like people I won MVP awards over, people that, you know, I was just flat out better than. And I saw them go, and I was like, "Ain't no way, Lord, ain't no way." And so it was at least a decade that it took me to kind of wrestle with it and get over it and kind of transition into doing what I do now. But my pastor at that time, he told me about other things that were going on in my life. He's like, "Hey, man, you just got to recalibrate. You got to recalibrate and readjust to what's going on in your life and what God's calling you to do now." So
Yeah, I think that that's something that we have to really understand as uh, I got a feedback. I'm not sure where it's coming from. Hold on, y'all know me. I'm all anal about my tech. Okay, so let me try to turn off my microphone. I'll turn it back on. Give me 1 second.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, that didn't fix it. All right. Sorry, sound people. Y'all have to figure it out. I tried what I could do from here.
we
Okay.
hear you well on this end. It's not that loud.
Okay. All right. So sorry about that. Okay. So what I took from your story and what I think, and I'm hoping that other people take from your story is that, you know, we can love the game and we can love being part of the team and we can love all the different things that's happening in the world. But the fact is that you don't get another you know? Yes, they can the only thing that they can actually replace is joints, and that's kind of
Mhm.
I would say that is a very challenging experience for anyone to go through because I am
Mhm.
always helping people after that. But they can't replace muscles, not yet. They
Right.
can't replace, things, like if you lose your nose or you lose your ears, you have to wear a prosthetic for the rest of your life.
Mhm.
And there's all different things that happen. You can be, and so, okay, so in my understanding, and this is new to me for this year, really, of the extreme that players are willing to play, right? So not only so when you are hurt, or injured, you have to do things like you said, take the Advil before you go, or the ibuprofen before you go out, and do all
Mhm.
those different things just to be able to make it to the field.
Mhm.
Then you have to do all these things to kind of protect yourself, to kind of make it past that, right? So then
Mhm.
what? The next question is, if you're protecting this thing, you're leaving something uncovered. So you might be protecting your shoulder from getting
Mhm.
somebody hit you in the side and they like rupture your intestines.
Listen, listen. I always tell this for emphasis. I was taped up when I got back. They took the cast off. The cast covered from my toe all the way up to my kneecap. When the hard cast came off, they taped me up from my toe to my kneecap. That should have been a sign right there.
Yes.
I went from a hard cast to a soft cast,
Yeah.
and it didn't help. I didn't tear my Achilles tendon again, but all the ligaments around my ankle, the tendons around my ankle, like I messed them up every year after that.
Well, and it's because, they focused on getting your Achilles to heal, but they didn't fix the collateral damage that always happens in an injury. That's one
Yep.
of my big. That's one of the things I'm constantly talking about is collateral damage, and that's
Mhm.
really what happens even still today. When people are when you get injured, you go to the doctor and they're like, okay, so this is the thing that's broken. In the medical community, that's what they do. They fix broken and diseased things. They don't fix healthy things. So if
Right.
your collateral damage is not to a degree of medical intervention, they aren't paying any attention to it.
Right.
So that's why this whole summit exists, is because
Mhm.
we have to figure out how to partner people like me and like a lot of the other and all the other people who are coming to talk about integrative things, and
Mhm.
which one of these types of things is what you need to do based on your injury, right? Because
Right.
there's a lot of things out there that can help you. So yes, the whirlpool was a good thing, but it wasn't enough, right, for you. And the all the different, people do like cryo and different kind of stuff like that.
Mhm.
But that wasn't enough. Why? Because everybody's body is different. And at
Mhm.
some point, you probably had already. I'm gonna talk my whole speech before it's my turn, right? But the whole thing is like you have to really know how the energy, like every damage is called, every trauma is caused by energy, right? So everything's energy. So how far did that energy move through your body once the impact occurred, right? And
Right.
so you got the external impact, and then you have the impact of the tear or the break, and then that takes that initial impact to a whole nother level, right? So
Mhm.
everything, you have to really be able to understand like all the different layers of what's happening in an injury. And I hate that you didn't get to make it to the NFL, but we got questions. First
Yeah.
question
Yeah. Yeah.
is, how do you have how how do you have to help others let go of what they want from sports?
All the time, like because things happen. I've seen so many athletes that get injured, just like I did senior year. I see some that get injured a lot earlier. I've had uh, talks with young people who've had multiple concussions and had so many concussions that they couldn't continue on in their playing career. And so what we always try to do is we try to affirm the value of the person apart from the sport. And it's so important because everybody has just an intrinsic value that that it may not be unlocked until they start playing sports where they can feel it and they can see it, but it's there. And as coaches, if all we see is what a player can do on the field, then we've really missed it as a coach. And so my best athletes, I got one that's playing soccer now. She could have played college basketball. She chose to play soccer. I have one now that when she figured out that she was an amazing person who loved to help other people, that is when she played her best basketball and played her best soccer. I got a kid that just signed to play at Newberry a week or two ago. Just signed to play at Newberry. It wasn't until I partnered him with a younger athlete to help him along the way with his academics that he really found his value and how much he loved helping other people and being accountable and being a leader. So all the time, I try, and every coach is not like this because everybody's not invested. And that's part of what I do as a youth pastor, as a pastor, is that I have to see beyond just what people do overtly, because none of us are just what we do overtly. You know, we are so much more than what people see. And so I try to see that, and I absolutely try to help them, not even necessarily let go, because I didn't let go of the passion that I had. I just became a coach. I'm still very passionate about football. I'm still very passionate about basketball and track and field, which is why I was able to pour into other people. So, you just have to recalibrate and readjust how you give that energy back. And if you can help people do that, then you serve them well.
Awesome. Okay. So a question that also came in is, have you found something that you love just as much as football? I would say, what? What would you say to that?
Man, absolutely. First of all, I love Jesus. I do, and I try to live that out every single day and everything I do. But with that comes youth ministry. I actually majored in youth ministry as an undergrad at CSU, and I'm completing my master's in youth leadership, graduating April 30th. And so, working with young people is a real passion of mine, and it's not just in sports, but I have a mentoring group, the Community Development Mission, designed to help people in communities. We do summer camps. We mentor, we partner kids with mentors, stuff like that. So I'm all about helping kids and helping families. I'm extremely passionate. That's all I want to do. That's all I do all day as a pastor. That's all I do. That's all I do is try to help people and connect them with Jesus.
Well, that is super, super cool. Everybody's loving that answer. Okay, so the last one and the last thing we're going to say before you go is I want you to kind of elucidate on players when they are young, because you talked about this earlier, and this how when they're young they get injured and it's ignored for the most part, and then how that becomes something that festers, and then by the time they make it to the higher levels, even to pro, that injury is now affecting them because it was never addressed early.
Right. Yeah, and listen, I consider my story a shoulda, coulda, woulda story, right? And we probably heard them 1,000 times. We probably heard I could have made it to the league. Everybody got a cousin that could have made it to the league, right? Everybody has a nephew. Everybody has a niece or a daughter or auntie or somebody that could have made it to the league, right?
Mm-hmm.
But doesn't that speak volumes? That there are so many people with so much potential to get there. There's so many young kids that show that potential early, right? They show that potential early, and they may be the star of their league, and they're getting the trophies, and they're getting the plaques, and the MVPs, and all of that stuff because they have potential. And Bob Knight said something that is a famous quote. He says, I don't want potential, I want performance." And so it is the kids that actually go out there and perform that get the most attention. Well, one of the most polarizing things for a young person is praise. You want to get a young person to do something, give them some praise. You want to see them excel academically, give them some praise and reinforce it with praise over and over and over again, and you can see tremendous change happen. Well, when you praise a kid for going out and playing well, and that's all you ever say to them, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to play regardless. They're going to play hard for mama and for daddy and everybody else yelling in the stand. It don't matter if my leg about to fall off. Think about the times that you may have seen a kid fall down on the ground in the sport And we're talking about when they're falling down or when they're contact, they're called compact injuries, and they compact breaks and bones and stuff like that is happening. And if it's not so obvious, it'll go untreated, right? If you can't see the bones sticking out the leg, oh, Johnny, get back out there and keep playing, right? And those kids, they will do it. They will run through a wall for you. And after the game, nobody's talking about that fall again. Nobody's talking about, the hurt. Nobody's talking about the fact that something didn't look right or your leg was twisted back kind of funny. Like, nobody's talking about that. All they're talking about, oh, you won the game, you lost the game, you played good, or I wish I had played better. Nobody's talking about that thing that happened in the game that could be something that was serious, because kids got way more energy and way more willpower than we might want to give them credit for. Willpower, we know they got the energy, but the willpower to get back out there and do, it's tremendous. They can do whatever they want to do, and they will go back out there and do it. So you get to the next level where somebody is getting paid to assess your child and allow them on their team, like me. And I'm sitting and I'm looking at what in the world is going on. Why are they shooting the ball? Why can this kid cannot get the ball over his head? The ball got to go over your head to go in the basket, okay? It's got to go over your head to go in the rim is 10 foot tall. I don't care if you're 2 feet or whether you're 8 feet, the ball got to go above your head to go in the basket. Why does kid shoot like this and can't get his shoulders up over his head to shoot the ball? That's a problem. Kid want to play quarterback. Well, why he throwing the ball like this instead of being able to get the ball to square up and drop it and snap it down and get a spiral on the ball? Why? Why are these things? Why can they not follow through and their hands are always going like this? Why can you see little cricket fingers like that? I've never had a cast on my pinky finger, but look how crooked it is. Nobody ever talked about that. That happened when I was a young kid, and it's been like that ever since.
Oh,
I can't even straighten it out. Nobody talks about it. It is get back out there and do it. And kids do not have the language to come to you and tell you exactly what's going on. You might have to ask some questions. You might have to bring it back up because it will go untreated. And it's only going to hurt them in the future from being able to get there, because it's easier to train a child than it is to train a 15, 16, 17-year-old who's gotten accustomed to doing it the way they're doing it. And they don't feel like they have the time to commit to trying to do it the right way. See it all the time. All the time.
Well, Tremaine, I am going to let that be the end of that, because that was powerful statements made, and people are definitely needing to know this. I'm sure that people are. We got a yep, so true on here. I'm sure that there's people. This is being streamed on many platforms, so people are definitely going to be able to see this and understand that you need to be there for your child. You need to be there and understand that, yes, little Johnny can make it to the NFL, but you want little Johnny to make it to the NFL, to the Olympics, to wherever, and be able to do so and have a good body and good health.
That's
and
right.
And after, when retirement time comes, all the money that you've made, you still need to be able to enjoy it. All right. So we are so grateful to you for coming and sharing your wisdom. I am sure that there will be questions that will come along that we will need to reach back out to you to get answers for. And I thank you so much. We are going to take our break. We got a 2-minute break coming up, and then you guys get to listen to me talk some more.
All right. Thank you, El. Thank you for having me. Thank you all for listening.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Master Your Recovery Virtual Summit series. I don't know if you guys remember me. I'm Angela Pride, but I'm here to basically introduce our last speaker. But today we've been talking about being injured, playing injured versus playing hurt today. And I hope you guys have gotten something out of our talks today. Feel free to post wherever you're seeing this, post your comments, post your questions. If you're enjoying this, we'd love to hear back from you. But what you will discover is how you can find relief in partnering with the right kind of complementary therapy services to help you overcome the challenges of being injured or being hurt. Right now, post-traumatic pain accounts for 14% of all disabilities worldwide and includes localized pain such as lower back pain, knee pain, shoulder pain, and even joint pain. Our final speaker today is none other than Miss Elle Kersey herself, the host of this Master Your Recovery Virtual Summit. Elle has been a maverick from the start, challenging rooms to distill the essence of effective action. Whether it's business or in her genius space, getting results has always been her focus. Elle has mastered the ability to help people move past limited body challenges, be it improved beauty or scars or post-injury situations. She has masterfully helped improve dramatically. Elle's approach is designed to help busy people, most high-performance entrepreneurs, athletes get back in their game with as little downtime as possible. Her seemingly magical ability to improve the body without downtime or side effects is something to behold. If you have the opportunity to get on her calendar, take advantage of that. She is definitely worth every dime, and I can personally vouch for that myself. So let's welcome none other than Elle Kersey, the host of Master Your Recovery Virtual Summit. She's coming, y'all.
I'm sorry, I'm having tech difficulties back here, trying to do too many things at one time.
You're doing okay.
So you guys, I thank you, Angela. And yes, I did make her read all that. Yes, I did. I didn't want to be saying all that stuff about myself. So I really, it's a struggle for me to bring all that up because I don't think all that's relevant in the real world, right? Those are just things that people can kind of say about you. You always feel nice. Yeah, that was great. Somebody thinks that way about you. But the fact is that from my perspective, every single body's vessel person is different. So my natural innate gift is to notice anomalies in things and people. And my ability to be able to see, like Tremaine was talking about, where you see a player, for him as a player that can't move a certain way or do a certain thing. I notice that in people in general. It's my gift. I can usually tell if someone is injured, how their body is interacting with that injury. So my innate gift to be that kind of empathetic has coupled with my acquired skill, right? So we were talking about that in the beginning, like if basketball or if a sport is a skill or is it a gift? And so what we kind of came to the conclusion was that the combination of things, right? So your skills and your gifts, and then I guess talents, I guess that technically would be a skill and gift together, right? Is what makes a person or allows a person to be able to master or not to master a thing. So the reason why this summit is so important for you as a viewer and the people who get the benefit of this summit is because it's more about an awareness that there are things out there that can help you, even though you may not have known about it before. Um, you know, we pray to God to answer um, our need for help, right? We want help with um, to get rid of the pain, for the pain to go away. Well, there are miracles that happen, but most times miracles are done through people, right? So even things in the Bible that were done. God used someone, and even when Jesus was here, he used a thing, like he spit in some dirt and made a blind man not blind anymore, which I think is amazing. So, but those things are useful and helpful in specific situations. So it's not all the time, and it's not for everyone. And so the thing is, there are like a multiplicity of modalities that are useful. So you have, well, my thing is microcurrent. If you know me, you know that's what my jam is, because I can talk to anybody about that for all day, every day. But then you have acupuncture, you have, well, shamanism, you have uh, different things like, there's different types of ways to uh, imbue the body with herbs and different medications and stuff, right? So which thing is the right for what's right for you? And so the thing is we have to figure that out. There's no one pat answer for anything, and so that's why the summit on mastering your recovery is a thing, right? So that's where it comes from. And so what I do and what I'm offering to people in my practice is the ability to recover from old injuries because it's necessary, right? And then also to recover from, newer injuries faster because you need to get back to work or back on your team or whatever, right? So when people come to me, and later on in a series, if we find it necessary to kind of really so what I use microcurrent as my modality. I created so the challenge with microcurrent has been over the past several hundred years is how do you get consistent results? Consistent results is the standard bearer for pretty much every single thing. So, and then there's a degree, right, within that, if it worked or didn't work and so forth and so on, right? But what I've been able to do is take something that has been for, like I said, hundreds of years, not able to produce a standard thing. So if you look at Terrell Owens, for example, TL, everybody knows him, when he got injured. His injury was significant. He had to have surgery because he had a broken bone and he had tissue damage. He took microcurrent, or his trainer did, and barometric pressure to be able to help him heal enough so he could play injured versus hurt, or vice versa, depending on, I can't remember which one Angela said is which. But anyway, the worst one. So instead of playing in the worst condition, he was able to play in the least injured condition, right? So then the man ran hurt for 122 yards or some crazy amount of yards. Even though his team didn't win, his contribution was amazing. And it was because he was able to use an alternative modality. Everybody loves Tom Brady or hates Tom Brady, depending on who you're talking to. But what he uses a multiplicity of things. Everybody talks about LeBron James. He has spent lots of money. They talk about that, but it's because he's using these alternative options to be able to heal so that he can play longer, so that he doesn't have to play hurt, so that he doesn't have these injuries that are lingering that's inhibiting his ability to continue to be elite. So that is, my friends, what is so important about this summit, that you in your own personal life, whether you are a professional athlete or not, whether you become my client or not, or anybody's client that comes through this series, is that you have the ability to understand that if you are injured, that you can make it over the hurdle of the yo-yo cycle. So the yo-yo cycle is hurt, and then you get a little bit better, you do something, put a cream on it, rest it, whatever, and then you go back out and play, or you just continue to live life, and then you hurt it again. And then so it goes up and down, round and round, that yo-yo, round yo-yo. You go around the world, walk the dog, all those kind of things. And the point of it is that it is super, 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 super important that you know that you have to be able to overcome that one space. So if this is the space between you not being injured and you being injured, and you've traveled this road to here, and you keep coming back to this place right here, but you can't get past it, you need help. You have to get some kind of intervention so that you can get back to the place, or at least as close to the place as possible, of not being injured. That's extremely important. So, because what happens is, like when Tremaine was talking about the little kids, right? The Pee-wee leaguers, they get injured, and by the time they make it to high school, they look like they're constantly throwing gang signs because their fingers are stuck, things like that. So if when your Pee-wee leaguer was injured initially, and they went to see some kind of integrative situation, right, where you're able to either come see me, go to the acupuncturist, or go to the massage therapist or something, so that now that injury that at the time was minor-ish, can not become something that is major later, right? So that's kind of the goal. So that's early intervention prevention. So by the time somebody comes to me, they've been like this, they're in their 30s. They are close to retirement. Their body can no longer compensate for the multiple traumas that they have in their bodies. Now, let me say, I constantly talk about this. So when I'm talking about multiple traumas in the body, it's because when you get an injury when you're young, then you're going to get injuries all the way up until you become a pro. And then once you become pro, playing, especially football and rugby, I said that in the beginning. Those are 100% injury sports. So you are constantly going to have new injuries that are coming. Now, the only thing, and I promise y'all, I say this like every day, 800 times, the only thing that can heal your body is blood. The only thing. I don't care if you have a surgery. I don't care if whatever they don't change your joints out. It doesn't matter. The only thing that can heal your body is blood. Now, the amount of blood that you have in your body is limited. So if you have a lot of old injuries and your body's focused on trying to keep those old injuries from becoming something significant, by the time you get a really major injury, there's possibly not enough blood to be able to get you past that hurdle so that you can get back closer to being not hurt, right? Not injured. So your body has to constantly play the piano, constantly has to, fix a little bit here, 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 which is unnecessary if you get those things fixed either early or get them fixed later by somebody who can do that. Now, sometimes it takes a surgery, right? Sometimes you just have to come see me. It's just one of those things. my specialty of all my specialties, like I do several different things, is scar tissue. Scar tissue is considered one of the most insidious side effects of an injury and surgery. Because surgery is technically another injury on top of your original injury, because it's a surgery. They got to cut you open. Okay, so being as though that's the case, scar tissue doesn't stop growing, which is why over time, like Tremaine's finger, it didn't bend anymore. It's because he has like a band of scar tissue that is keeping his joint from being able to be viable. So it no longer works because it's stiff from scar tissue. So if he gets another injury that's close to that scar, so say like carpal tunnel or something, the scar tissue from his finger is going to connect with the scar tissue from his carpal tunnel. And so there's a lot of conversation about carpal tunnel and where it starts, but when it gets to be traumatic tissue, it's traumatic tissue. So then people have things like, they have conditions called Dupuytren's contracture and things like that. Now, that's a type of scar tissue that is all kind of wrapped up. And sometimes now you can have different things that can cause you, say, like hereditary situations. But when a scar tissue is scar tissue, and if it can be addressed, it can be addressed. So regardless of what the cause is my point, that it can be addressed and relieved. So all the different types of scar tissue, yes, there's multiple types of scar tissue. People always seem to think that that's not the case, but there's multiple kinds of scar tissue that forms in different places, but they all like each other. So if you have say adhesions from a cut, and then those adhesions, and then you end up like breaking your wrist or something, now you're going to have a complicated compound problem that will cause you problems over time. So you can have something super minor, like something minor, like you hurt your shoulder, like, and it's not broken, it doesn't require surgery, there's not an issue, it's just hurt. But at some point in your past, you broke your rib. Well, that scar tissue will like that scar tissue, and it will make that shoulder worse, because the scar tissue is going to just expand and expound and become something. Now, I'm not going to get into why you get scar tissue and all that kind of stuff, and because, yeah, I could go on for days, right? So, but the point is that when you need to have something addressed, just do it. Don't wait. Don't act like it's not there. Don't ignore it, because if you ignore it, it just gives it more space to grow. So it's like, do you let it fester? That whole adage that they have about the poem about, I can't remember, but it's something about festering and all that kind of stuff. But my point is that happens in real life, and it happens all the time. So it's like super important that you make the decision to understand that scar tissue will not stop growing no matter what you do, unless you do some kind of intervention. If you have a surgery on top of scar tissue will return, because you cannot stop scar tissue with surgery. It can relieve it, and it can make it possible so that, the tissue doesn't mat the same way. But the fact is that anytime you get an injury and you have to have a surgery, one of the first things most of the time that they have to do is remove the scar tissue surgically, so that they can correct the problem. So that makes your surgeries last much longer, and you can have different complications, because the tissue inside is so thin and so small and so tiny. Just the little smallest thing can cause it to go wrong. So that's why they always say, if you can avoid surgery, avoid it. A good surgeon will always tell you not to have a surgery if you can do something else. And sometimes there's not something else. And that's really important to know, because when it is possible, taking that option is always a huge benefit. So during the series, we're going to talk about the different perspectives that you can have and the different things that you need to do when it comes to scar tissue. So, because my story and how I even got into this whole scar tissue drama was I had a C-section, and it was an emergency C-section because my baby was 29 weeks. And if you know anything about 29-week-old babies, they usually try to make you wait till at least 30 weeks if you're going to have a preemie. And that wasn't happening. So she came out and she was 2 pounds, 10 ounces. Can't tell it now because she's 28 years old, sweet baby of mine. And, but at 2 pounds, 10 ounces, I'm trying to do everything I can because I'm like, oh my God, I'm responsible for a baby. And look how tiny she is. And everybody in the world's like, that's the smallest baby I ever saw. That all the people that I met, the doctor, her first pediatrician actually sent her to another pediatrician because she was like scared that she was so small. And I'm like even more feeling like I have to be overprotective, because even if the doctor can't, think that the baby's small, oh my gosh, to me she was a regular sized baby, right? But everything's perspective. So after my surgery, because I didn't rest, I wasn't taking really good care of myself. I really was just so involved in this baby that I ended up having to have surgery several years later to remove scar tissue. Well, not only did I have to have it that time, I had to have it 11 more times. So in total, I had 13 surgeries on my abdomen just to get rid of scar tissue. So after the last surgery, my primary care doctor said, and all this was in a very short span of time for 13 surgeries. You would think it would be years apart. It really wasn't. It was very close together. And I'll explain the whole hyperhealer thing later. But anyway, so when I went to her for my aftercare, she was like, if you don't stop letting them cut you this much, you are going to die. And I kind of spazzed out a little bit because I was like, okay, my baby needs me, so I can't die. And I was like, okay, so what am I going to do? She was like, I don't know what you're going to do, but you're going to have to figure it out or you're going to die. So, okay, I decided that I was going to start doing some research and figure it all out. Well, it was funny because one of the doctors that I had helped in my previous life said, you need to get a microcurrent machine. And because that will help you. He's like, you have been helping me help people with this phantom limb syndrome for a long time, and you don't know this, but you naturally use microcurrent better than anyone I've ever trained before. So you really need to get a machine. And I was like hesitant, and we had some conversation around it. And so I went ahead and got a machine. And there's no protocols that really exist. Well, they didn't exist back then. And I figured it out. I helped myself. I haven't had to have surgery anymore for scar tissue. They actually don't do the surgery that I was getting anymore because it just makes more scar tissue. And so that was my foray into my first understanding that surgery is not the answer. Surgery is just this beginning. So that became a mantra of mine And I really began to go through the hoops and hoops. And if you are one of the people who have made it into the foray of um, medicine has its place, but there's other things that I need to help me recover, then you understand what I'm saying. And this is not, I know that medicine and all the things that they offer are valuable in the right scenario. But I also know that there are many things that can help to further and support and gird what they have done so that you can move past your trauma. So, again, that's even why we're doing this whole thing. So when I got past my surgery and all the different things that was happening to me, I realized that, okay, so I can help other people, but I really wasn't sure how I would do that. And what we know in 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 the I say in the world where I live, right, is that people are more interested in their how they look than how they feel when it's not dramatic or extreme, right? So I took what I knew about the body and I developed a process because people are like, I know you for beauty, so let me explain. Um, the the processes that I use to increase how a person looks, right? So I created a way to do non-surgical face and body lifts. But at the same, but even if you have ever been my client, you know that I'm always talking about how what I'm doing is improving not only how you look, but your health in general too, because two things: your skin is the largest organ of your body. It actually covers the outside, but it also covers every single thing inside of your body. So if I am the master of your skin, I am the master of your entire body. And I am able to just like if you catch the flu or you get sick or something, you start to look bad because your skin is indicating to is making that external signal that something internally is wrong, right? So that's kind of how that goes. So, but my process is designed to improve the the healing of your body. So it's not just to make you look better, even though you do look better. I'm 50, yeah, it works. And so, but the the way that it happens is based on the same principles that it takes to heal scars and injuries and make your body function better, all those kind of things. So I was able to master and hone the skill set that it takes to improve the body's ability to heal itself from anything, regardless of what it is. So that's essentially how all that went down. So once COVID, well, so before, so when, so it was about 14 years ago is when I started the beauty side of things. 8 years ago, it became a hurdle that I had to overcome to help people who wanted to look better, but they recently had surgery or something else happened, because I can't, because go back to when I started about the only thing that in your body that can heal it is blood. So if your body is focusing on healing you from a surgery, I can't try to take blood away from your critical situation to fix your face like that. It would both things would be compromised, and so it's not wasn't valuable. So it's like, well, let me help you heal this area, and then later on I can help make your face look better. And so that's kind of how like that foray into the wellness side of things started to happen. And then people would call me up, my brother, my sister, my mama, my somebody needs some help from you. And we've been everywhere, we've tried everything else, we've spent thousands and thousands of dollars, and we are not getting any closer to help, and I think that you can help us. So they come in, I fix it, everybody's happy, it's done. So, and it's funny because what kind of exploded this wellness side for me was my father and my uncle. Everybody who knows me knows those are always my favorite two people on the planet. And they both ended up in I would say like nursing care. My uncle stayed home, but my dad had to go to the nursing home because his was a little bit more extreme than my uncle. But what I realized over the years of being their go-to person was like my dad, his knee would hurt and they couldn't give him certain medications because of his condition and so then but he's like, I don't care about everything else, my knee is hurting, you need to come over here right now and fix my knee. So I got okay from the doctor to be able to do, and so Dr. T was like, do whatever you can, whatever you can to help him, do it. So we started so my dad basically was like pushing me to be able to come up with ways to help to expand what I was doing. You know, I really kind of didn't feel, I was like, I didn't feel like that was my road, that was my call, that was my thing. You know, it's like, I just want to make girls look good. That's all I want to do, you know? And my dad's like, look, that's great and wonderful, but look at what else you can do. And so one day, rather recently, you know, I don't know, when my dad passed, my uncle passed, and I was like just mentally a basket case because, again, my favorite two people in the world gone. And the conversation that I was having with the Lord was, I just really want to just go and chill and like sit on the beach somewhere and just, I don't know, just relax. And he's like, no. He's like, I sent you here for a purpose. And I'm like, okay, what's that purpose? And he was like, you know how people pray all the time for relief from this and relief from that? He's like, I am going to use you to answer those prayers. How can you say no to God for that? So here I am. So that's why we have the summit. We're going to launch Lux Maverick next month. Lux Maverick is where we will help athletes, like professional athletes and elite alpha achievers, to be able to get over those types of injuries that we talked about earlier, those either whether they're old or new, but the goal is to help them recover quickly. We're also going to train people. Everybody, for years and years, people have been asking me to train them to be able to become microcurrent therapists. So I have a whole system now. It's called Quad Core Microcurrent System. And so we're going to train people to be able to either become independent practitioners using my methods, or they will be able, and I'm also going to have a team of people that'll work directly with me, and they will be able to service either doctors' offices or teams of different things. So the thing that I want to say about that is that there's a large group of people that play professional sports. What we see in this arena is that when they get hurt, like Tremaine said, there's nobody pushing them to improve themselves in the way that they can come back later. They want them to come back now. So we had to figure out how we can speed up the process of people healing so that they can not play hurt. So that's what I did. So I created that process. The NFL in 3 years spent $1.2 billion just on people, just on injured players. One team alone spent $80 million. that means that the players themselves were not making the amount of money that they would have been making if they were actually playing, because they kind of go, just like for us when we get sick, we go on short-term disability and they give you like a portion of like 60% of what you make, right? So in that situation, you have a lot of stress that comes from that because people are counting on that to support their families. People are, so you can either go in a situation where you do, you get better, which is the goal. They all fighting to get better so that they can go back out and play so they can get back to work and make their money, or just, continue to feel that euphoria of being great, as Tremaine explained. But there's also another flip side to that. They don't make it back. And you have a lot of players who actually end up filing bankruptcy. You have a lot of Olympians who get injured and they're like selling their medals and different things like that. So there's a lot to be said for being able to do two things: to quickly recover from an injury for your personal self, because who wants to suffer? And to be able to have the time frame that it takes to recover be shorter, so that you have a less chance of getting bumped or losing your spot, right? So that's why I do what I do for these players. I do still help regular people, so don't think I'm being elitist, because I'm not. I'm just saying that's who we target for Let's Maverick. So the point is that we are not in a place anymore where we can take keep the blinders on and say, oh, whatever the doctor says is going to be fine. First of all, we lost a lot of doctors during COVID. We have to acknowledge that. So a lot of good doctors are gone. A lot of good nurses are gone. And so the institutional knowledge and the long range skill set that has been able to help people to overcome that median space is limited, if not gone. So the AMA, so the American Medical Institute, all the different medical organizations around the world are now focusing on, keep hitting this thing, sorry, are now focusing on increasing the different types of integrations that are available. You have people, so before, when you would have a surgery, you would just sit in the hospital bed and then they send you home. And so then over time, they realized sitting in the hospital bed is not really the greatest thing. So then they send you home earlier. Now they don't even let you stay in the hospital, which is super crazy. But anyway, but the point is that you are, the way that we are treated after we have a surgery that's necessary is changing, right? There's, later on in the series, you'll hear how the Rice method has been debunked. And so the Rice method is where you rest, ice, compress, and elevate, right? So that's been debunked, and we'll talk about that. I'm sure there's going to be a whole bunch of people say they love it, but it's just not. It might be fine for some things, but not fine for everything. So I don't know if we should totally throw it out in the garbage, but that's the situation. So now, after you have like a major kind of malfunction of your body and you've been, say you had to be in the ICU or whatever, you get all kinds of therapies. Like you can get speech therapy because you need to relearn how to eat and swallow and relearn how to talk. You can get occupational therapy. You learn how to put your butt in your clothes or put your shoes on, even if it's in a modified way, because your body's different than it was before your injury. So you might have to use a contraption or a device or something to be able to help you do it. But the fact is that you are learning how your new normal is going to be. So just because you haven't heard of something doesn't mean that it's not useful, because what has happened over the years is, before you before, say, the last 6 or 7 years, uh, chiropractic care was considered quackery. And so is massage therapy. That's just for relaxing. Now you have therapeutic massage. Now you have all these different things. So what's the situation? What is happening is all the things that have been used as sideline practices or alternative whatever, those things are now becoming mainstream. For me, microcurrent has been mainstream for years. The thing is, it like I was trying to, what I was getting to earlier is it was never a stable. If you use microcurrent, you're going to get this. If you use microcurrent, you're going to get this, because it was never standardized. So what I decided to do is, instead of doing like a whole bunch of more research and blah, 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 which to me is so crazy, because there's been hundreds of years of research on microcurrent, and every single one of those reports say the same thing. Microcurrent is safe. It builds elastin, collagen. It rebuilds tissue fiber, and it increases blood flow. So what does that mean? In a research study, it's like time for them to like go get more money so they can do more research. But in the real world, what does that mean? That means that microcurrent breaks down scar tissue. It reactivates the activities of the tissue so that it can do its normal functional things that it's supposed to do. By doing that, it increases the ability of the tissue to heal itself from any type of injury from the past or the future. It also allows you to get enough nutrition and blood flow to areas in a trauma, in a what I call in a post-traumatic condition, that would not normally have been possible. So if you think about somebody who has like a hand injury, one of the biggest things that causes them to lose their fingers or their hand is the fact that there's not enough blood flow to the tissue. And it's because the scar tissue is blocking it, or the inflammation is so great that is creating a negative pressure that's not allowing the blood to flow properly. So what do? I've been called into all kinds of situations to help people to um, where I had to treat the tissue so that the tissue can become more viable. And with microcurrent, everything happens very, very quickly. And I love that, because I love instant gratification. If you know anything about me, I like it to be quick and done. So it's great, right? So for me, things need to happen. I need to see it changing. I need to see it happening now. I don't want to wait 6 months. I don't want to wait 9 months. I want to see the result. And so that's why I'm so passionate about microcurrent, because if you get a treatment from me, you can tell that day. It might not be fully healed, it might not be fully done, but you can tell that we're going in the right direction, and then something is changing and improving. So that's why I do what I do. That's why the summit exists, because there are several things. Like, microcurrent might not be for you. Microcurrent, you might need to get acupuncture, or you might need to go see Chinese medicine people, or you might need to go see. So there's another use of microcurrent where people treat disease. I'm not a doctor, so I don't treat disease. I am a post recovery specialist. When you are hurt, if you have had years and years of pain and trauma that's been plaguing you, and you can't sleep, you can't play with your grandkids, you can't cut your own grass, you can't lift your hands over your head, you can't, all of that's me. That's who you come see. I'm the person for that. But if you have a disease, please go see a doctor or somebody. Like, I'm not the person. I get a lot of calls about that and a lot of emails about that. Like, I don't treat cancer. There are people who use microcurrent to treat cancer. I'm not the person, right? So that's just kind of how I want to say that. And that's how I'm going to let it end, because I could go on, and I don't want to belabor the point. This whole event has been wonderful, in my opinion. I'm going to bring Angela back so she can help me close out the show. And I am fully vested in having this summit be something that is valuable to you as an attendee, to so you can share it with your friends so that you can tell everybody. So that's why we did this first session as a free one, because a lot of people have no idea that you can master your recovery for real. It is really, really true. You can't leave it up to other people how these things are going to happen for you, because it is super incredibly important that, because I can't know, even as your therapist, I'm sitting there with you. I don't use a machine that just leaves you, like that's what most microcurrent is. Like they'll put a machine on you, kind of like a TENS unit in a way, and it'll just leave you there for the machine to work on you. I don't do that. I literally am there with you, but you have to tell me what you're feeling so that I know what's going on and what direction I need to continue to move into, because the only person who knows what's going on in your body is you. So you can't let somebody else tell you, oh, you can lift your leg, oh, you can bend this way, oh, no, no, sugar, I can't. So you have to be able to say that and be sure that you know that you are in control of your own body and how important that is. So we are not. And one last thing, two people can have the same exact injury, exactly the same injury. It can either be caused by two different things or whatever. But the problem is that the way that the person is going to recover is different. There's a lot of factors, and we'll talk about all those things, like how much water you drink, how what your nutrition is, what your general health is, what other things that you have going on in your body that also need to be addressed. So if you, just to bring the point home, if you think about a diabetic, when you have diabetes attacks your organs. It also, so your body is constantly fighting against the trauma that's happening internally. So if your toe gets injured and you can't get enough blood flow to it to heal it. So that's why diabetics end up having like their toes cut off and fingers cut off and stuff, because there's, like I said, you only have X amount of blood in your body. So I've met people and I'm like, and I've have clients and I'm like, your blood flow is so low that this is not going to heal. You have to fix all these other things so that this new thing can heal. That is incredibly, incredibly important and vital. And that's how come diabetics have that situation. So then they end up with gangrene, and gangrene really, like they always say it's an infection, but actually it's just where the tissue starts to die again, because it doesn't have enough nutrition, doesn't have enough blood flow, not enough collagen, not enough elastin, not enough tissue fiber to be able to be viable, right? So that's where people call me in. I have a client, we did a testimonial. Basically, she was pre-gangrenous on her small toe, and I fixed it in like, I think like maybe 1 or 2 treatments. And then she was like, oh, I'm fine, I'm good. Now she's back out there doing her thing. So, like I said, we are going to continue with this summit because it is incredibly important. It really is a movement, not only from me, but there's a movement in multiple areas around the world along the same vein. So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad whether you're watching this live or whether you get to see it on the replay, you need to definitely um, get you a ticket. That's what I need to say. I ain't said that the whole day. You need to get you a ticket so that you can show up for the next summit, the rest of the series. There's um, 5 more sessions scheduled as of now. There may be more later, but we're going to stick with this right now because I don't know if I can just handle all this being on camera so much. And we have we have really great guests. We have ex NFL players. We have gold medalists and a golfer, a pro golfer. I can't tell you who it is yet because we're kind of like, yeah, y'all know how schedules work, right? And y'all know that COVID is crazy. So everything's kind of weird. Even like our first pro today, we had to switch to a different day because of COVID related issues, I believe. So we are in a space now where Angela's about to talk instead of me talking, and we're gonna really give you guys an insight into a whole different world that you probably never knew existed.
Well. Awesome job, Miss Kersey. Awesome job. Very clear. That was the one thing I loved. I mean, you make things clear. I always get on you about being complicated and stuff. You got all these things in your head that the average person doesn't know anything about. But yeah, you were very clear. So thanks for being clear on that. I wanted to bring to you some questions that have been posed. Of course, you made mention who the target market is for Lux Maverick, but you also said that you are still helping the average Joe. So if someone is watching and they're trying to see if they are a good candidate for microcurrent, what can they do? And talk a little bit about just how you plan on juggling all of these many ventures that you have in your head.
Okay. So if you want to, so right now, the only way really to go to try to get them on schedule or whatever is to go to luxmaverick.com and fill out the form. I know that's like a pain in the butt, but it really helps us to be able to identify right clients. Like, we go through a whole process to help us understand what you're going through. And I don't want what I've seen a lot of times, and I've had people come from other countries to see me, and just for me to tell them that, I can't, I don't know if I could. I'm not the right person, right, for your particular situation. And I mean, I've had people just break down and cry in my office, and I don't want that to happen anymore. Because they would come because somebody told them to come. They would schedule an appointment, and then they would get to me, and I would not understand why they were there. Like you really need to see a different situation. So, and I didn't always have an answer what that situation was. So that's why we don't want people to spend money to come here, especially in a pandemic, right?
Right.
We want it to be over, but it's not over. And so we want to be able to help people to qualify before they get here, so that when they do get here, we can hit the ground running and I can get them back to their life as fast as possible.
Okay, awesome. Okay, what about next question? Microcurrent. I've talked to people. I've been talking to more people about it now that I'm becoming more familiar about it. But remember, I said it's not necessarily knowledge is power; it's that applied knowledge, right? That's power. Mm-hmm. So you are definitely, hopefully, empowering some people today. But I've talked to a few people that actually have had microcurrent machines. And so you talked a little bit about this, but can you just kind of share what you do? You talked about, the doctor that you worked with said, you do this better, but why what you do as opposed to, because I think the machines are, they're not too expensive for someone to just, order a machine, right? So what's the difference? Why would I go with Lux Maverick as opposed to just getting my own machine and trying to work it through that way?
That's an awesome question. Okay, so what the machines do is when you get the machine they come with stickers usually, and it says, put this sticker here, put the sticker here, put the sticker here, wherever, right? Depending on whatever you need to fix. The problem is it's only going to be able to deliver the current to that specific sticker location. So if you are constantly doing the same exact thing, you're going to get the same exact result. So it's going to improve it a little bit, or maybe a lot bit, but it's not going to completely recover the tissue. So what I do is I don't use the stickers. I actually use a wand, and I am not only trying to figure out like where the pain is. I'm like, okay, so what's causing the pain, and what is that connected to, and how are we going to resolve all the issues that's keeping this pain or this trauma in place? There's not, we think of a trauma as, okay, I ripped my muscle on my arm, Okay. So, but something was happening before you were actually able to rip that muscle, like Tremaine was
Mm.
talking about earlier. There was some precursor. So the precursor is the original trauma, whatever caused that is like the precursor to that trauma. So it's like that. Um, you are not only trying to fix the rip muscle, because if there was enough blood there, it would have automatically fixed it itself, right? So
Mhm.
given the time. So then there's something else that's holding that trauma in place, and we have to unravel that. So it's not, so if you, so it's more, so what I focus on is more than just the smallest problem. It is the correlated collateral damage that can go from, just a local area to the entire limb, because everything is connected, and you have to resolve all the connected traumas so that you you have full use and not partial use of your limb. So that's
Okay. Okay. So you also talked a little bit about, so basically, I mean, but are you advocating one or the other? Like can they,
Oh no, you can do. See, this is the thing. So that's how come we had to pick us. That's how come I'm like, these are the specific reasons why you want to come to me. Because if you are, say, if you can do lots of things. Like you can take the Advil, you can rest it, you can do this, you can do that, and it'll get better. The problem is when you, so like I was saying before, you have this space of not injured to injured.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have gotten all the way to injured and you're coming back and you keep bouncing at this spot right here where you can't get past that hurdle of being injured, like you can't fully extend it, or it always hurts, or if it rains it hurts and you kind of bounce this way, then how do you get past here? That's when you come see me, so that you get to the place where this trauma is no longer an issue. It's fully resolved and you're ready to go on with your life.
Okay. 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 Good. Okay. Good deal. Good. Now, next question. You talked a little bit about the fact that El Kersey is going to be training other people to do this. Now, that the question is, will there be a prerequisite? Because I'm a little nervous. I know you. I know your knowledge base. I have a heavy science background myself. But the average person, will you be able to train the average person to do this microcurrent in a facet, in a similar facet of what you're doing, or will it just be general?
Okay, so generally, so that's a really complicated question to answer. Okay, so okay, so the first rung of people that we're going to train, they're going to be medical people, so there'll be nurses and stuff like that.
Okay,
And the reason,
prerequisite people, prerequisite. That's what that means.
and the reason why is because you have to have an exceptional grasp on anatomy, right? And I'm sure there's like plenty of people who like really focus on anatomy and they could probably come in and learn and do it and stuff. Did she say no?
There's not. Yeah,
So
I'm
let's,
sure, pretty sure. No, there's not. Sorry.
okay, I just love anatomy, so that's just my thing. So anyway, so the thing is that you're gonna, so you have to have some breadth of understanding,
Right.
because there is a lot to, you're gonna have to unlearn a lot of things, because it's not the way that the body works is so weird. Like it's so counterintuitive to what you think, right? It's like people like, take this for example, one thing. People are always like pushing these muscles back like this because they're like, I want my face to look like this. I want my face. These muscles, the more you push these muscles back, the more sagging you're gonna get. And people don't
Stop
get that.
lying. Now I just had a facial and they told me to go this way. They told me to go up.
They told you to go up. They didn't tell you to go back.
Okay, well, see, I ain't been going back, so I'm good. All right, black
Okay,
don't
yeah.
crack,
But
y'all.
see, that's the thing. It's like, so because what's happening is, when as you age, these muscles, all your muscles draw. They draw back. They draw back. Which is why you end up with, people have strokes and stuff because their carotid arteries and stuff are matted down because these muscles have atrophied, right? And the reason why they atrophy is for lots of reasons. And sun damage you usually get in the front. You drink soda, all these different things, and then you have teeth issues. And then anytime there's a trauma, the muscles run away from it. They step back. That's how you originally get that. People think that when you get that, they call it swelling, but it's not really swelling. The tissue opens up to its maximum capacity so that more blood can get to an area to heal it. So that's not really inflammation. That is, I don't know, got to come up with a new word for it, but that's not what it is. So the inflammation is always, inflammation does it makes it bigger, but it makes it stiff. Whenever it's big and swollen, or I guess it's swollen, but anytime it's exasperated in size and it's warm, it's because there's more blood trying to get there. Now you can get an infection and all that kind of stuff. That's a whole.
See, this is the side of Elle, guys. I want y'all to understand. Elle is going to give you a ton of details. You answered my question. And you can thank me later, because you were going to be getting calls from people who were not ready to be trying to do no training. So basically what she said, guys, was the first line of people that she's going to train, they will be medical professionals. So don't worry about it. Johnny in the back that thinks you about to do this microcurrent, okay? She'll get to you after you took that anatomy class and dropped it and then took it again. Last question, because I know we've got to get out of here today. So they have other tools, and you've talked about other tools about helping people with their recovery. So I'm a little, because I have one, the Hypervolt, that comes with the different tools and things like that. Are those types of tools and instruments, I know that they may not be similar to microcurrent, but do they have the capability to do some of those things? Like, not necessarily with the scar tissue, but maybe with the scar tissue, are they capable of, kind of making that same, mimicking what you do with the wand as far as the blood and the flow? Can you speak to those types of things? Because those are hot and heavy right now. Everybody who's an athlete has one. Anybody who's working out has one. So speak to like the Hypervolt. How that may help or not help. Like, what do you believe on that?
Okay, so I'm going to say that I'm not familiar with that particular device, but most devices that fall into that category are of the TENS unit type. Mm-hmm. Then you have some that have like a TENS unit and a microcurrent element to it. Okay. So what I always say is everything has its place, right? So if you are in a situation where you have a general, small, simple issue and you can use those types of devices to help you, absolutely do it, because you know your body, right? You know if it's working or not. What I always would say with caution is that you need to make sure you follow directions. I am not a proponent of giving anybody really a device to use because people don't follow directions, because if a little bit worked, then a whole lot gonna work better, and that's not always the case, because you can hurt yourself. So you really, really, really want to be aware of how they say to use it, what the counterindications are, and what to look for if you start to have a negative reaction, right? Those are the things that are most important whenever you're going to use a device. I actually wrote a whole book about that subject. It's called I should retitle it now, but it's called the User's Guide to Aging Skin or something like that. But it's really about how to determine if something is the right thing for you when you are using any kind of device or a product, and how to pick the right type of thing for yourself.
Thank you. This has been awesome.
Thanks. I'm so glad, you guys. Oh my gosh. This was a labor of love. Let me tell y'all, I am going to give like the biggest shout out. And if I could kiss her on the cheek, I would. Erica Bates from Talk Virtual. She has worked with me every day, multiple times a day, to get this event put together for you guys. She has been incredible. If you want to put on your own summit and you need some help, that's your girl. So just like her, just like me, she is not cheap, but I promise y'all, she's everything. So I want to thank you for being my set the tone speaker. I want to thank Tremaine for being our first keynote speaker of the series. I want to really, really, really thank everybody who was able to attend and who will also be attending in the replay. And for those of you who are going to continue to enjoy the series as we roll it out. So again, if you want to come to the rest of the series, you do have to buy a ticket. You can buy a ticket for one session just because you have like a certain sense. As soon as we announce who the next person is, going to be crazy. But you can get a ticket for that one event for $47, I think. We got to ask Erica. Or it's $97 for the whole series. And then you also get the recording and all that kind of stuff to it too. So we welcome you back. We thank you for coming. And yes, we out of here for the day. Thank y'all. Bye.